Call the Thursday, April 2nd, regular school board meeting for Forest Lake Area Schools to order. Please join us for a recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call of attendance?
Sure. Okay, Member Christensen.
Here.
Member Corcoran.
Here.
Member Castle.
Here.
Member Tyson.
Here.
Member Rebeline.
Here.
And Member Antonsen is here. Everybody's here.
All right, with that, I move to approve the meeting agenda.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. That brings us to scheduled and unscheduled visitors. Member Tyson, Member Castle?
You mean the listening session?
Yes, listening session.
So there was nobody there to listen to, but we did have a visitor who was going to join us
I don't have that.
for the discussion today. Where did my paper go? And he is on the board of,
Justin McPhee.
yes,
There it
Justin
is.
McPhee.
There it is.
And he's on the Career Launch board. And he's going to retire pretty soon, so he's going to have somebody else from his place of work also join. He's going to stay on. So we were very glad to have him there, and we all talked about different career stuff, and it was no listening to do, but we had a good time.
Very light. Anything to add, Member Tyson?
I was just going to add that he is a machinist, and his daughter graduated, his son last year in 2025, and his daughter in 2022. And he just had a lot of accolades for our Career and Tech program, and for Molly and all the work that they do, Molly and Mike. And just said it's super impressive. And as, excuse me, as a machinist himself, he wants to help other students and people grow in their careers. So he's really a great addition to that board, I'm sure. So glad he came. I had never met him.
Well, excellent. Thank you both. We will move quickly to student achievement. Student report, is to be decided.
Yeah, we are not able to get a student group here tonight, so we'll pass on that.
Okay, then we will move to the FLACS Principal Lefebvre. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, community members, board members, and Dr. Massey. I brought two staff members with me this evening. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the College in the Schools statistics class that Terry teaches through the University of Minnesota. Thank you, Renee. And Emily Wood, who is our new counselor from the TEP program last year. She joined the community school this year. We switched the position from dean to counselor so that we could better meet the needs of the students. I'm going to start out by just giving you kind of an overview, and you can click. Oh, do you want us to click? Oh, did I do something? You can just go to the next slide. The third slide. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit, an overview of our alternative programs that we offer here in the district. As you can see on the slide up there, I'm going to start with the community schools. So our alternative learning program in Forest Lake is intentionally designed to meet the wide-ranging needs of our students by providing flexible pathways, individualized support, and a strong focus on the whole child. We recognize that students learn in different ways and at different paces, so our programming is built to ensure that every learner has access to meaningful educational opportunities that align with their personal goals, strengths, and challenges. The Forest Lake Community School serves as our district's alternative high school and offers a comprehensive high school experience. Students have access to standard-aligned core courses in all subject areas, along with a variety of elective options that allow them to explore interests and build real-world skills. In addition to academics, we intentionally focus on developing employability skills. This includes embedding social emotional learning into daily instruction and utilizing a career pathway framework to help students identify interests, set goals, and build skills necessary for future careers and post-secondary success. Our goal is not only to support students in earning credits, but also prepare them to be confident, capable individuals beyond high school. A key component of our program is credit recovery, which is offered after school at the community school. This program provides students with additional time, support, and access to courses facilitated by both high school and community school teachers. Through personalized guidance and flexible scheduling, students are able to recover lost credits and stay on track for graduation. We are proud that our credit recovery program was a pilot for the state of Minnesota, and we continue to refine and expand it based on student needs and outcomes. Many students have already benefited from this opportunity, successfully regaining credits and making significant progress toward earning their diplomas. We remain committed to helping every student cross that finish line. Our therapeutic education program is another vital part of our alternative education system. This program is designed for students who meet specific entrance criteria and require more intensive support with therapy and an educational component as well. It combines academic instruction with a comprehensive therapeutic approach to address mental health needs that may be impacting learning. The program is staffed by a highly collaborative team that includes a licensed therapist, recreational therapist, a teacher, and a paraprofessional. Together, they provide structured support throughout the day, integrating therapeutic strategies with academic instruction. This approach helps students build coping skills, improve emotional regulation, and re-engage in their education in a safe and supportive environment. For our youngest learners, we offer the WIN Club, an after-school program for students in grades K-8. WIN means what I need. Club focuses on strengthening foundational literacy and math skills through targeted instruction and engaging activities. It provides additional time and support for students who benefit from extra practice, while also building confidence and positive attitudes toward learning. Then we have Summer School is available for students in grades K through 12 and is designed to both support skill development and provide opportunities for acceleration. In the elementary programs, grades K through 5, students follow a structured schedule that includes dedicated literacy and math instruction, along with daily SEL morning meeting to build community and support growth. This summer, we are excited to implement Be Good People curriculum, which will further enhance our focus on character development, relationships, and social emotional skills. All instructional strategies and interventions used in summer school are aligned with the district's general education framework and are supported by the curriculum and instruction team to ensure consistency and effectiveness. At the middle school level, alternative education funding allows us to provide additional academic support through a guided study hall model. This structured environment gives students the opportunity to receive help with assignments, build organizational skills, and develop strong study habits, all with the support of staff who can provide targeted assistance. During the summer months, we are also excited and offer our extended credit recovery program to high school students, including those from neighboring schools such as Leela and NLA. This expanded access ensures that more students have the opportunity to stay on track or get back on track for graduation. Overall, we pride ourselves in offering a comprehensive system of support that prioritizes student success in every form, academic, social, and emotional. By providing multiple pathways, targeted interventions, and a strong network of support, our alternative learning program ensures that all students have the opportunity to grow, achieve, and reach their full potential. Now we're going to dive into the math course that we offer at the community school. Terry has been working with the University of Minnesota for 12 years.
Not quite, no. Probably more like 13 or 14.
13 or 14 years.
About 10 for the stats.
So we do offer a College in the Schools course at the community school taught by Terry, and she's going to give us more information about that. But before we start, Terry has been at the alternative education within the system as a math teacher since 2000. She has been a key player in creating a system that helps individual students build confidence as they move forward with more complex math concepts. Terry has been a part of the College in the Schools program at the University of Minnesota for the past 14 years. So with that, go ahead, Terry.
Well, we often find that many of our students are behind in math when they come to us, and building up their confidence is really the big key to everything. I am a firm believer that every student can do difficult math. They just have to believe in themselves. And so that's what my colleague Al and I do, is we work individually with students and get them to that place where they feel more confident. And then we have to have a place to go, so those College in the Schools classes is a step up for them to really dig in and find out that they can do it. And a lot of my students who have taken the class have gone on to college. I have one, in the last time I taught this course, one of my students is now in an engineering program at the U of M. So she's doing fantastically. Earlier this year, Dave Sauer asked if I would help him present at the Minnesota Math Conference, the MCTM conference in Duluth later this month, and to talk about stats. And if you've spent any time looking at the new grad standards, there's a lot of stats in there. That's the big change. Stats and a lot of mortgage type things, and so the stats is where we're thinking hard about right now. My students agreed to help me create this presentation for the MCTM conference. And we decided that they're going to do a video that will be part of the presentation. So they're really stepping up and doing a great job. What we decided to do is to talk about bias. And so we decided to do something very, very simple, just picking a number, what most of us would say, between 1 and 10, right? And so they talked about it and they said, but does that eliminate 1 and 10 if we say it that way? How can we make sure that we're getting our point across that we want them to choose one number in that range? And so they decided that they were going to put it on paper and just say circle a number. And they had the digits all listed. And so they gave it to 40 students or adults, they just 40 people. And this is the results of their observational study. Okay, so we talked about it, and with 10 numbers, it should be equally likely. It should be spread out evenly. Why does it look like this? So thank you. We use Tinkerplots. Tinkerplots is a software. Has anyone ever heard of it? Okay, it's fun. Kids love it. They learn it quickly, and they can do lots of simulations. Like we ran it once, and from there we picked the mean and collected 500 more trials just in seconds. And so the graph is what we came up with. So the average on that first graph was 6.35. And the equally likely should have been 5.48555. So what we were able to see, they calculated the p-value, and it's outside equally likely. So we do have bias when we're picking numbers. The funny thing was that 7 was the most common. So maybe there's still something about lucky 7s, I don't know.
I think so.
But I'm excited to be able to go to the conference and to have the kids participate. They're learning a lot in this process.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Wow.
Okay, next, we're going to hear from Emily, and I'll give you a little bit of background. Emily is a licensed professional clinical counselor with experience working in the clinical mental health program development and research. Emily is passionate about providing culturally competent, collaborative care. Emily holds a bachelor's degree in anthropology from the University of Alaska Anchorage and a master's degree in counseling psychology from Alaska Pacific University. She is currently enrolled at the University of Minnesota Moorhead to complete her school counseling certificate. Emily has utilized her broad skill set to understand how biopsychosocial factors contribute to student academic success and overall being. Prior to her time at Forest Lake Area Community School, Emily has worked in various adolescent and adult treatment settings, providing individual, family, and group therapy, and clinical program management for programs in Alaska and Minnesota. Emily grew up in Cambridge, Minnesota, and is the daughter of public school educators. She lives in the area with her partner, their 4 kids, and 3 dogs. Take it away, Emily.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here. Something that I was just thinking about when Terry was sharing was this idea in kind of the mental health and psychology of, like, we all know what a trigger is, or we hear that word a lot, right? Like, oh, that triggers me. It's usually something that activates a really uncomfortable feeling for us. I think the opposite of a trigger is called a glimmer. And a glimmer can be one of those, like, everyday things that just kind of gives you a little more pep in your step, or a little more smile on your face. And as Terry was just discussing her class of college and the schools, I had a little glimmer of my own, because I had a few students come into my office and do the sheet for me. So I wonder if I'm obviously biased to numbers, but it got me excited, because I just really appreciate the active learning that can happen at the school. And that's one of the ways that, when I was approached, with this opportunity, I was really excited to explore it more and be a part of the team, because of the amazing educators and staff that we have at the community school. So, thanks for giving me that glimmer too, and thanks for engaging. I mean, the kids were excited about it. It was fun to see and kind of talk about that, and getting them excited to learn about stats that I probably could have used you in grad school too. But so I see my role in a couple different areas. One, as we talked about, looking at kind of bridging the gap so that our students can be successful in their academics, and also help support them, because we know that students bring factors into school that will impede their learning progress, and sometimes it's hard to learn when those factors are happening. So I see my role as both kind of to support the students, but also to support our staff in helping to understand our students better, and understand our students well, to help them know how we can attune and create a learning environment for them where everyone is successful. I've also partnered with Cody Chamberlain, the other school counselor, on a couple school initiatives. We piloted the SOS training last week. Kelly, myself, and Cody piloted. So it's signs of suicide. It's normalizing and training students and staff to really talk about and kind of identify signs and what they can do when they see a peer that is experiencing thoughts of suicide, which we know is prevalent. And so that was a great great opportunity to kind of integrate some of the mental health and well-being messages and skills into the academic setting as well. The other thing that we are doing is implementing Be Good People into some of our behavioral interventions too, so that we can provide our educators and also the students with applicable skills and instruction that can be helpful for balancing mental health and well-being, as well as just daily activity or daily activities and academics. So it's been fun to be able to kind of weave in my previous training in an individual and even group level to a school level, and I appreciate the ability to team with all the teachers and the staff and Kelly to create a better learning community that's already great. So just, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Then finally, to wrap our presentation up, we, every 3 years, we get together as a staff and we take a look at our mission, our vision, why do we do what we do? And so we did come up with a new mission statement, and then our, along with our learning goals. So I'm going to give that to you so you can take a look at it, pass them out, advertise our school so people come and experience the great environment that we have. So it's our learning statement on the back, and then our mission and vision on the front part of the brochure there. So any questions from the board or anyone for us at the community school? Tessa, sure.
Okay, this therapeutic education program, is that from K through 12 too, or is that 9 through 12?
9 through 12.
That's- okay, that's what I
Grades
thought.
9 through 12, and we
Yeah.
partner with Canvas Health for that
Yes,
program.
Okay.
And there's a cap of 7 students in that
And
program.
I remember when I first started here, I think that had kind of just started, or recently it started, and are you able to grow the number the capacity you have for number of students in that yet, or?
So right now, it's similar to a hospital-type program, hospitalization-type program.
Okay.
And the cap is 7 students.
Okay.
So kids get better results when it's a smaller number, and the milieu grows together.
Okay.
We've had a total of 13 kids in that program. They've either graduated from the program or didn't need the program anymore, or insurance didn't cover any longer. So there's been 13 kids who have been in the program so far.
Great, okay, yeah, no, I think that was my only question.
And that's located at the community school.
Right, okay.
Member Castle?
So the 7 that are available to be in the program, does the program meet every day?
The program meets every day.
Every
Same
day.
school hours as ours. So they're 7:45 to 2:15.
So would it be possible if there was another person to have another group? We'd be able to have 2 groups?
We're hopeful at some point to open up a middle level program as well. But we need to make sure that this one is a well-oiled machine. So it takes a couple of years when you establish a program to make sure that all the components are functioning well. So we are, if I'm answering your question correctly, we're hopeful to have a middle level program as well.
So with additional staff, we can have more
We
than
could
just
have
the
2.
one group, yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Member
Gail.
Tyson?
Thank you. So we were really excited when the therapeutic education program kind of started. I mean, it's an exciting thing to know that they're not being put on buses and hauled around for their therapy and then brought back to school, just eliminating all those transitions that are really difficult. Are you finding that there is that door where they can go back to the regular classroom? It sounds like there is when you say there's 13, but there's 7. So it sounds like some are able to integrate back into their regular classrooms.
Absolutely, that's the goal, to get them back into the high school or the community school so that they're functioning well and they're making safe decisions, and therapeutically they're not needing that intensive of a program.
Right.
So, absolutely.
It's so wonderful and remarkable that they're in our district. They're not having to leave and come back.
Correct.
And transition to another program and come back, so.
We have that here in the district now, so
Yeah.
you're correct. They don't have to be transported to wherever another program may be.
Which is very beneficial for their education. So another question about the SOS, you talked about debuting that. Will that, and Mr. Caldwell's back there, do we have that at the high school?
So we are piloting this program this year.
Okay, it's just new this
It's-
year.
Yep.
Okay.
And we brought it to Dr. Massey's attention and got approval for that. So the difference is we're teaching kids signs of what to look for.
Right.
And so it's more of an educational component
Mhm.
than just a depression screening to find out if someone is at risk. So they're taught what to look for if a friend is in crisis.
Yeah, we're hopeful that, you know, that we can start rolling it out
In the fall.
in the fall.
Oh, so in the community school?
We will roll it out in the fall and also possibly at the high school. We haven't had conversation
that
yet.
was
That's a summer conversation
Yeah, so it's really
as we
recent.
vet the program, so.
Sounds good. And is that through the county and county dollars, or how is it, where does that program come from?
Building budget.
Oh, okay. Very good. Well, one of my favorite graduations every year, I never miss it, is the community school graduation.
And we love to have everyone there. It's
Oh,
the greatest day.
It is the greatest day. There's so much
It is.
family and joy and
Mhm.
tears and hugs. It's just, I just love it. I just
Yeah.
get goosebumps and tears and all of that.
Thank you for joining us every year. We appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I'll be there this year.
Awesome. You're all welcome to come.
Member Corcoran.
Well, I was just going to say thank you for the great presentation. I mean, I'm just so thankful we have these opportunities for our students. I mean, your school is so critical for our district, that we keep kids in the classroom and graduating. I mean, it's powerful. But yeah, I'd like to kind of, as far as the SOS program too, I mean, that's something that I think is really essential right now in the climate today, the growth, the problems with suicide rates rising, especially with the younger students. I hope that we can get more information on that as time goes on, just kind of success stories, and as we roll it out, I'd love to hear more about that. It's super important and very critical for our schools. And I just think, everything you talked about was just so inspiring, so thank you. I really
Thank you very
appreciate.
much for your
yeah,
support. And we
yeah.
can share that
Yeah.
information with the board as well.
Okay, that would be great,
We have
thank
a
you.
PowerPoint.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah, it's really important, so thank you.
Thank
Member
you.
Castle.
So along with the identification of people that are at risk, is there also the mitigation so that they are no longer at risk?
Of course.
So personally, I don't like to call kids at risk. I like to call them kids that have different needs. So, but are you referring to the SOS program when we
Yes.
identify? Okay.
So that they no longer have these
The
feelings and
parents
things
are,
like this? yeah.
the parents are contacted immediately. So do you want to explain a little bit
Yep.
about what you went through with a couple of our kids?
So I like to kind of, SOS is kind of a 30,000 foot level kind of exploration with like how to talk about these kind of symptoms and signs. It's not diving super deep in a classroom, it's just kind of a psychoeducational way of here's what to do, here's how to share, here's how to respond, and then how to get help. And then the follow-up is students were able to identify people, really just natural helpers in their community in the school, and we asked that they do a screener at the end that's similar to we call it a PHQ-9 that is similar. The questions are surveying for symptoms related to mood. And then immediately that day, that if they are checking anything that is maybe above cutoff, the staff is alerted. We're speaking to them that day, and then if they're meeting risk for higher need, we're creating a safety plan. We're contacting parents or guardians and ensuring that they're still feeling supportive throughout that process. Studies show that talking about suicide does not increase suicide. It actually lowers it. And so what I tell my students is anything mentionable is manageable. That's Fred Rogers' quote. And so when I share with them those, that if they're having these feelings, they're scary. I'm not scared of them as a staff member who is kind of trained in that, and that oftentimes can just lower some of that pressure. Would I consider them at risk maybe in that moment? And then we continue to follow up to ensure that there's appropriate resources out there if needed.
So other than the talking about it to lower the anxiety, the hard help or the help that really will mitigate them from having these thoughts is external to the program. Other than just talking about it and bringing it out in the open.
And that is also, that is the first line intervention.
Yes.
And so I don't, I wear two hats with my certification, but those kind of like further mental health diagnostic evaluations are not done within our school setting. We can still continue to give individual support within the school, ensuring that, it's meeting the needs of the academics and their social support, and then providing the student and the families with additional resources if it's persisting.
Okay.
So yes, external or internal if it's.
Member Christensen.
I just want to mention that I think it's really wonderful that you said that you want to give people confidence in math, because that sure was not me in high school, but I love your enthusiasm, and I love that you're finding something that the kids would be excited to do and to share with adults in their lives. And if it's appropriate, I would love to, maybe you could share that video with us that the kids, if it's appropriate. But I just, and both of you, all three of you, I can hear the passion in your voice, and I can just hear and tell that you love what you're doing, and that's really wonderful that our students have that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Christensen.
Thank you.
And really quick here, I wanted to geek out about the math piece too. I was sitting here trying to calculate the standard deviation in my head and figure out how many, it looked like about 2 deviations off of standard on that one. So I was really excited to see that you were connecting the students to the data and actually showing them that this is a normal distribution, this is how we deviate from that. And I think that's powerful because statistics are so much fun.
They are.
When you understand how they work and you can connect it to real life.
But you understand what math teachers don't like to teach statistics, though.
Again.
You don't get that one
It's not
answer.
exciting.
Well, no, it makes math,
Is it likely?
makes
or is
math
it
fuzzy.
not? Yeah.
And we don't like
does.
fuzzy in math. We
Fuzzy
like
math is
definitive.
fun. Yeah.
But-
And Tinker Plots is great.
Yeah. And then the other question I had really quick before you guys left, did you mention this is a new mission statement? Would I be putting you on the spot if I asked you to read it out loud? Because I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it's exceptional, and I want you to get credit for this here.
It's not me, it's the team. So we met as a school community for a couple of months. So our mission is to cultivate an environment where challenge meets compassion and high expectations are paired with individualized support. We achieve this by blending structure with flexibility and high quality instruction with emotional support, ensuring our students have the necessary tools to thrive.
Thank you for that. I think that's a great reminder of why we're all here tonight. And thank you for coming in, and the presentation was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
support.
Thanks for coming.
Here's some extras if you don't want them to go to waste or anything.
Well, I had one more question for Emily. How did you come back to Minnesota from Alaska? That was my question. I'm like, how did that all happen? I'm glad you're back, by the way.
COVID happened. I had 2 kids in Alaska, and Alaska was really far away from Minnesota
Okay.
and family. So
Well, that was my question.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we will move to positive happenings. Does anybody have anything to start off positive happenings? Member Christensen.
I have a few things. I went to the Frozen Junior play, and it was the middle school play, and I have to admit, I was like, a middle school play. It was not a middle school play. They were so good. They were, really and truly, it was super exciting, and I would just want to give a little shout out to the director, Amanda Witzman, I'm sorry if I say that wrong, and musical director Jennifer Witzman, I assume obviously they were related, I don't know how they're related, but it was wonderful. And the costumes were great, and the scene changes, I mean, it really was spectacular. And they also did a lot of fundraising out in the lobby, and I'll get this wrong, but I feel like they raised like maybe $2,000 or something along that will go right back to the middle school play next year, and someone can correct me on that. But it was really fantastic. I went to the Lakes Expo on March 31st. Member Corcoran was there, so that was fun. I went to the middle school showcase on March 22nd. Director Wilson was there too, and we watched some things together. But that was really great and well attended by the parents. They had some food trucks there. Then I went to the Scandia Art and Academic Fair, always really a wonderful time on March 27th. That was really fun. Also stopped by the Lions and the Boy Scout waffle breakfast, which was good. Talked to some Boy Scouts. Went to the wrestling banquet, which was really wonderful. They did a really great job. A lot of seniors coming off that team this year. And then just one more thing. The Student Council is having a Parents' Night Out, April 17th, 5 to 8 p.m. at the high school, preschool through 5th grade. So, Member Tyson has it right there. So
I like when she goes first. She just covers everything.
So anyway, I think that's really exciting. Maybe they've done that in the past. I haven't heard about that.
I
But,
have not heard of it.
I think
so
it's
is there any other?
thir-
I didn't have the flyer.
It's
but-
$30,
Oh, it's
and if
okay.
you see this, you can sign up on the QR
Yeah.
code. And I heard a parent of mine in my neighborhood went, I think it is fairly new, Jim would know, but she said her twins didn't want to go home.
Oh, I'm sure.
She's like, we gotta go, it's over now. So it sounds like a lot of fun for the kids
Yeah.
that come, and just a great event, so.
Yeah, that's, and exposure to our schools for younger kids and families
Right.
to get inside our
Yeah.
schools. So I think that's a great idea.
And it's at the field house.
Yes.
Which
So they'll probably,
probably
be
part
running
of why they
around
didn't want to
and-
go
yeah.
home.
Run.
That
Yeah.
concludes my report.
So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Member Atkinson?
Yeah, I'll share. Member Castle probably has something to say about this too, but we both attended the FFA banquet. Was that last week? No, I can't remember times. I made my oldest son be my +1 that night, and he was reticent at first, and then after being there and they had, a pasta dinner cooked by our own staff, which was delicious, and they served autumnwood milk, which is what I love, and local farmers that have that, and Seville, they sell it at Cub. So anyway, they had raffle tickets, and my son won a $10 greenhouse card, so I'm super excited to use that at the Egg Day on the 8th of May. Do I have that right? Yes, 8th of May. You don't, I'm pretty, yeah.
May. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, so what else did I want to say about that? Okay, the award ceremony. There were a lot of awards, and I can't remember them all, but it's really impressive what these kids, the just vast amount of different things they can learn and win these awards for. And at that point, it was getting late, and my oldest son is a little bit hard to wake up. I'm like, we should probably go, and he goes, let's just wait until we'll stay a little longer. And I was like, oh, okay. So he really enjoyed it, even though, maybe one day he'll join FFA. I don't know. So very impressed with the kids and their friendships, but even more so in that ceremony, watching the instructors and the kids give each other I almost started crying because it was so evident how strong those relationships are between the teachers and these kids after they spend all that time together. And so anyway, thank you to Jordan Pollock, Mike Miron, Veronica Ward, and Tazel, and I hope I'm not forgetting any of those teachers because they are amazing. So,
All right, thank you. Member Castle?
So there was just a cursory view of the lunchroom. There was probably about 150 people there. They also gave some honorary
Degrees.
degrees to probably a dozen folks who have done so much with the program. And the seniors, relinquished their positions, and the juniors took their positions, and they had it was so awesome. I recommend for anyone who likes this kind of thing to go. And like Member Antonsen said, there's such camaraderie in that group all the way around between the students and between the staff, and between the students and the staff. It's awesome.
Terrific program.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was actually very disappointed I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I was traveling for a PhD program I'm pursuing, so I was unable to make it this year. But does anybody else have anything for positive evidence?
I
Member
just
Tyson?
have one thing. I like to attend the Ranger Art Show, which is now held out at Hallberg Studio. And it was Thursday night, the night of our meeting, and that is really the funnest night to go, and I couldn't make it out there. It starts, I think, at 5. But anyway, I went the next day and just kind of looked at all of it, but it's just amazing what they can do with mixed media and all the different art, and it's more fun to be there when the students are there and talk to them about their projects. But anyway, I like how Hallberg, we have that connection with them to host that. I think the students really enjoy it as well, so that's all I have to add.
I gotta say one more thing, I'm sorry, but at the middle school showcase that they had last week, so my middle schooler is in band, and he keeps forgetting to bring his instrument home, and the teacher, I talked to her, and she said, oh, he comes down here and practices several times a week, and I'm like, why doesn't he even tell me that? Anyway, they, did their little 5-minute show, and it was phenomenal. Like, it was a well-trained, well-oiled machine playing music, unlike, what I had heard him practicing when he did bring his trombone home in, like September. So I was super impressed with the progress that they made with these groups in middle school, 6th graders. So kudos to Miss Lockway and, no, I can't remember his
Jake
name.
Matheson.
Yes, Matheson, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
Thank you. That's actually a really good reminder. When my kids were in 6th grade, they practiced maybe once or twice a week because these teachers were traveling, and that was one of the big advantages of moving 6th grade to the middle school was more exposure to those programs. And it is amazing to see how fast and how much they
Yes.
progress.
Yep.
All right, anything else for positive habits? All right, if not, we'll move to reports. We'll start with workshops and conferences. Does anybody have anything for workshops and conferences? I have a report. It doesn't really fit in here great, but last October we sent, the board here sent a letter to the state of Minnesota asking the state to comply with the federal interpretation of Title IX. And recently, the Department of Justice just filed a lawsuit against the state of Minnesota for noncompliance of Title IX. So with any luck, we'll have a resolution there at some point. The process of litigation moves slow, but hopefully we'll see consistency there at some point here. We'll move to City of Forest Lake. Member Christensen or Member Tyson?
Can I add one more thing about?
Sure.
I'm just going to throw this in because it'll be really late, but MSBA's Day at the Capitol was a big success at its new venue, the History Museum. The venue was great. You could hear all the legislative panel. It was kind of like a college setting for the seating, so everybody could see and hear. Lots of room when people showed up to talk and visit, get their coffee, and just a lot of networking going on that day. People do really enjoy having their visits set up for them. Makes it easy. They get bussed over. So it was just a really fabulous time to see people. I met my friend Laura Palmer from Columbia Heights board that I've known for many years. She introduced me to Zena Stenvig, the superintendent for Columbia Heights, who went through all of that with the little boy with the blue bunny hat, and just told her how much I admired her strength and tenacity through all of that. So that was exciting for me to meet her. But lots of good Q&A with the legislative panel. I won't go into a lot of detail because then I'll talk for a long time. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Tyson. That was actually, I think, next on the agenda here. But City of Forest Lake, Member Christensen or Member Tyson?
I was just able to watch part of the meeting online, so I don't have a full report. But on March 23rd, there was a recognition and a presentation given to Chief Peterson recognizing his 25 years serving Forest Lake. And so that was really good with the family and everything. Later, Karen Housley was able to, Senator Housley was able to attend and present him with a plaque. And I thought it was interesting they were talking about it is such a tradition in Forest Lake of chiefs from Forest Lake. I guess I didn't realize that. The new chief, Chief Hanegraaff is from Forest Lake, and the chief before Chief Peterson and the chief before that chief were all Forest Lake folks, so I thought that was pretty cool. And that's, I mean, that's about it. They did announce the superintendent search focus group, so that was really good. They announced that and gave the date and time for people to attend, so that was good. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you.
I just have one thing to add. They had a workshop with a design presentation for the new Public Works building, and it was held by Wold Architects and Cross Anderson Companies. So they had a facilities assessment, which we know we've had in the past, and they've come up with 4.3 in deferred maintenance, 4.3 million. So there's a lot to be considered, and I just encourage people from the city of Forest Lake to go in. They can click on the agenda and view all the slides that are on there. And that concludes my report.
So on that point, Member Tyson, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. Have they made a decision on how to move forward with that, or is that still in the planning phases? Like,
Still in the planning phases. Through that assessment, the old shop has been deemed in critical condition, and then the old fire hall, which they're still using, is in poor condition. So it's just big decisions to make around where to start going after how they can get that done. So
I can mention.
yeah, absolutely.
They were mentioning that there's a bill at the Minnesota legislature, I think it was Bill 4352. It was approved unanimously, and that is a bill to just move forward the possibility that Forest Lake could go out for a vote for a sales tax to help finance the building. So that is moving slowly through the legislature. And after, if it were to be approved going forward, the steps that it had to do, there would have to be a local vote on the ballot, which I think would be this November.
would it be?
I think. And so anyway, that's kind of how they're looking at being able to finance this new building. So.
And I've just heard that that is like a 3-year process. Did you hear that, Member Christensen?
Well, I think it can. I think the city would have to vote that we would accept, or that we would before a sales tax, and then it would work its way through and build the building. And I mean, it's still a ways off. And they were clear to say this is just really in its initial stages. But that's the way they're looking at financing it, and you can't just do that. You have to, the folks have to vote on it, and it has to go through the legislature, through the proper channels. So I know that's what they're working on.
All right, thank you both for that follow-up, and we'll follow Mr. Heckman and his publication to get more details on that as it moves forward. That will bring us to community education. That's Member Christensen and Member Portman.
There was not a March meeting due to spring break, so the next meeting is in April. So no report there.
Okay, very simple there. Member Tyson, did you have anything additional for MSBA?
That was it.
Okay.
I went out of order, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. We can be flexible, right? That brings us to the superintendent report. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad I'm not following positive happenings, because I'm going to give you a testing update. We are entering the testing season across the district. MCA reading, grades 3 through 8 and 10. They will be testing on the new MCA 4, which is testing on the new ELA standards. We won't get those results until spring, as they're setting the metrics for the test scoring format. So that will come later, not in the spring, but in the fall, excuse me. Students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 will be testing on the math MCA 4, and then the science MCA grades 5, 8, and 11. Those are all happening here this spring. We also have AP exams starting. Have we had one yet? No, they're not for a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks out, and so our students who have taken AP classes will be testing on the AP exams. I must say that kids taking AP courses deserve a ton of credit. They're taking extraordinarily rigorous courses and preparing for exams, and they just deserve a lot of credit for stepping up and taking challenging courses. Additionally, kids will be taking on Saturdays now through the summer the ACT exam. We did have the ACT exam on March 24th at the high school. And then, of course, we'll be doing end-of-year fast testing across all of our grades as we wrap up the school year. I'd like to point out some upcoming spring dates and events. These are in my weekend update, but I want to get those in front of you again and get those out there for the public as well. We have the Bethel concert on April 24th, at 7:30 p.m. at Bethel University. Tickets will be forthcoming for the board for that. As Member Antonsen mentioned, the FFA Open House, May 8th during the school day, along with the greenhouse flower sale at the same time. Prom, May 9th. We'll have the Hall of Fame induction on Tuesday, May 13th. District retirement celebration, 4 p.m. in the High School Media Center on May 20th. May 28th, High School Pops concert. June 1st, 7 p.m., High School Academic Awards. And then later that same week on Thursday, high school graduation, 7 p.m. Weather permitting, we're outside in the stadium. So a very busy season ahead of us as we enter spring, but a lot of exciting celebratory events taking place. So please mark your calendar, and I know it will be busy, but your presence at those will be greatly appreciated. That concludes my
All
report.
right, thank you, Dr. Massey. Bringing us to the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.4. Does any board member have any item they would like to pull from consent? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Brings us to action item 8.1, donations. Member Castle.
Pardon me. So, we have a long list, a long list today. So, $15,000 from Hallberg Family Foundation for the Flaws Forest Lake Hockey Program. $8,650.48 from Forest Lake Girls Hockey Booster Club to the Flaws Girls Hockey 25 to 26 booster paid coaches. $6,282.21 from the FLDT Booster Club for Flaws Dance Team 25 to 26 booster paid coaches. $800 from First State Bank of Wyoming Employee Giving Account to the Flaws District Families in Need. $500 from Professional Disc Golf Association to the FLASCE Forest Lake Disc Golf Club. $500 from Polaris Foundation for the Flasky Ranger Space Camp. $500 from Forest Lake Lions Club to the Ranger Space Camp. $250 from Emily Bronson for the Flaws Outdoor Recreation Project. $250 from Wendy Freericks to the same Outdoor Recreation Project. $120 from Papa John's June Christofferson to Flaws District Family in Need gift cards. $100 from Hugo American Legion Post 620 to the Flaws FFA Chapter Student Org account. $50 from Costco to the Flaws Ranger Space Camp gift card. $30 from Amber Kasprowicz. Pardon me if I say your name wrong. To the Lion Lakes Elementary General Use. $25 from John and Donna Matthias to the Ranger Space Camp, totaling $33,057.69 for these donations. Now there's even a longer list donated to the John Latigar Memorial Fund that to support the Flaws Ranger Football and Track Stadium. All the following are to that donation. $500 from the Winona girls, Tootie, Shelley, and Barb. $200 from Chris and Lee Burkholz. $150 from Tom and Kim Kohlberg. $100 from Jeff and Susan Uritz. $100 from Bill and Lydia Falk. $100 from Philip and Kimberly Bufrade. Friend, $100 from Ted and Tricia Peterson, $100 from Linda Horopat Holly, $100 from Paul and Susan Beelfuss, $100 from Thomas and Diane Hipkins, $75 from Richard Jacobs, $50 from Richard Moskop, $50 from S.J. and K.M. Berg, $50 from Linda Madsen and Tim Klinkhammer, $50 from Ronald and Ann Peterson, $50 from Carrie and Renee Kellerhuis, $50 from J.E. and K.J. Friend, $50 from Shannon Kezar and Laura Kezar, $50 from Harris and Connie Laurent, $30 from Ron and Kim Lange, $25 from John and Rosie Quayle, $25 from Dorothy Sonny and Bill McErath, $25 from Tom and Paulette Miller, $25 from Charles and Diane Anderson, $25 from Ronald and Cynthia Piersdorf, $25 from Ann S. Astrop and Laura Wildy, $25 from Charles and Valerie Gunderson, and $25 from Roger Cheyenne to the Memorial Fund totaling $2,255, and a grand total of $35,312.69. And I'd like to accept the donations. I accept the move to accept the donations with gratitude.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there any discussion?
Wow, that's just generous. So
Yeah.
humbled by the
Yes.
generosity here, and it just keeps going and giving, and we are so fortunate and blessed. The FLAS Forest Lake Hockey Program, that is extremely generous. The Hallberg Foundation
Yes.
has just been supporting our district since way back when, forever and ever, and we're just so blessed to have them as well.
Yeah, it's humbling month after month after month, isn't it? Yeah, we're so thankful for that. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion carries. That brings us to FLAS staff retirement notices. Member Castle.
All right, background, the Forest Lake area school staff have submitted their intent to retire. Halid Kosovic, custodian at Forest Lake Elementary School, effective 5/30/2026, following 3 years of service. Lisa Badbois, ADSIS teacher at Columbia Elementary School, effective 6/5/2026, following 9 years of service. Administration recommends the approval of the staff retirements. I move to approve.
Second?
And motion and second, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, it brings us to the 2026-2027 budget adjustment and right sizing. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to walk the board through several slides that detail our administrative work preparing for the ultimate presentation in May and June, approving the 26-27 school district budget. Part of that process is analyzing the need for adjusting expenditures heading into the new school year. We look at enrollment, we look at staffing needs, and our administration begins that work early in January and continue all the way up to earlier this week as we prepare this presentation for you tonight. And through that effort, we identify the need to, I think the most appropriate term is right-size the district operations. So let me explain what that means and and why there's the need for a right sizing. And this is nothing new for our district. We get to this point in the school year, and we, due to enrollment and other factors, need to adjust expenditures as we move into the next school year. The context that drives this are really three key areas. We have a declining enrollment environment. The good news is we aren't losing enrollment at the rate that we have been in the past. In fact, the last couple of years, enrollment has been steady in spite of and in the midst of declining birth rates. We are actually stabilizing in terms of our enrollment and not seeing the enrollment loss that we have the previous 10 years. However, we still need to anticipate the loss of 75 students, just to be conservative in our budgeting, preparing for the potential that we will lose a handful of students. So this budget assumes the loss of 75 students. We know that we have increased expenses from one year to the next. You, in the previous month, approved the teacher settlement agreement, and embedded in that are increases approaching and just exceeding 3% each year. And then we also look at the increase in our core funding component, and that's per pupil funding. The good news is per pupil funding is now tied through the 2023 legislature to the Consumer Price Index. And through that connection and tied to the CPI index, we get our per pupil funding increase in February. Previously, we wouldn't get our per pupil funding increase until the legislature adjourned in May or June in a good year. So having this number early on is good news. Next year's increase on the per pupil funding formula will be 2.69%. That is greater than we have received in other years, so that's good news. However, it's important to understand that that increase is on 60% of our revenue. So there's a whole nother side of our revenue, special education, federal funding, local property taxes, that is not seeing a 2.69% increase. So on 60% of our budget, per pupil funding, we will see a 2.69% increase, but we won't see that increase on the other funding components that make up 40% of our budget. With that imbalance and increase across our revenue and expenses exceeding 2.69% across the whole budget, we need to make a right-sizing adjustment, and that right-sizing figure is at the tune of $1.5 million. So how do we get there? Last year, we were awarded the ADSYS grant at the level of $1.4 million. That grant has put in a number of academic support personnel in our elementary schools and allowed us to convert our academic support specialists to be funded under this grant. So they're working under the services related to this grant. That funding work frees up $750,000 of revenue to the district through that grant, increasing services and providing revenues to our general fund. So we're going to apply $750,000 from the ADSYS grant to offset the $1.5 million right-sizing adjustment. Special education funding formula also provides an additional revenue stream for us next year at the level of $250,000. So with the ADSYS grant and the special education revenues, that we now make up $1 million of the $1.5 million right-sizing piece, and then we add earned interest income from the long-term facility maintenance revenue that we're holding for another year before that gets returned to the state. That generates another $100,000. So we are now at $1.1 million, and the remaining $1.5 is met through staffing reductions. And I'll walk you through those staffing reductions, and the next action item will approve those staffing reductions. But we are recommending a reduction of 6 teaching positions to get ourselves to that $1.5 million right sizing level that we need to be at as we prepare the budget for next year. The good news is, if you recall, when we began the work around Reimagine 2025, that was driven by the reality that in a declining enrollment environment, we can't continue to cut our way forward and reduce staff. We really have been at a level where there just aren't places to cut without dramatic increases to class size. So through long conversations with the board and our administrative team and then the community, the board directed us to look at the elimination or the reduction of 1 elementary school. So through Reimagine 2025, as you know, we reduced 1 elementary school, and we moved 6th grade to the middle school, freeing up room for boundary readjustments across our elementary school. The driving factor and driving force or need for the reboundering was to create more efficiencies in our elementary schools. I'm happy to share that the boundarying work that we did, the painstaking work with community involvement, provided an adjustment of where elementary kids attend elementary school, resulting in a much better balance of enrollment across our elementary schools. Better enrollment across our elementary schools then leads to better balance across each grade level in those schools and gives us the opportunity to staff in a more efficient manner. I'm going to now walk you through how we plan to staff the elementary schools, middle school, and high school with this adjustment, keeping in mind the boundary changes that we put into effect. And you'll see that we are staffing our elementary schools at roughly the same class size with 6 less elementary teachers because of the efficiencies that we gained through boundary adjustments and the closing of an elementary school. So let's begin with the big picture, and that's looking at our current year, 25-26. You'll see kindergarten through 5th grade across the district and our average class size from kindergarten through 5th grade. Then we move to the right and you see what we are projecting with current enrollment rolled up into kindergartners rolled up to 1st grade to 2nd grade, and so on. What class sizes look like based on the staffing that we have allocated at each of those grade levels currently. So you'll notice that kindergarten is looking really low, and the enrollment at kindergarten, that's pretty typical this time of year. We will gain kindergarten enrollment between now and, frankly, the first day of school. We currently have 355 kindergartners. We need 350, 55, 60 kindergartners next year because that sets grade level enrollment for the next 13 years. And if we're down 100 kids in kindergarten next year, that'll be the equivalent of 1,200 kids over the next 12, 13 years. So we're optimistic that we'll get that. We're not overly alarmed at that low number. That's pretty typical this time of year. So if you look at, excuse me, the class size from this year to next year, you can see the relative equivalency between class size this year and class size projected for next year. The far right column will show the low average and the high average across the metro, and you can see that we are projecting class size enrollment well within and even on the lower range of the metro average. So with that in mind, let's take a look at each of our grade levels, K-5, across our different elementary schools. Columbus, and I won't go through all of this detail at each slide, but just to walk you through what's presented here. Columbus currently has 34 registered kindergartners. That number will go up. In fact, it went up, one of the schools went up 2 kindergartners just today. I think it was Linwood. We're getting we're getting kindergartners almost every day. That's good news. So 34 with 2 teachers results in currently 17 kids on average. Forest View regular, we shouldn't be overly alarmed with kindergarten being low at Forest View and putting 2 teachers there. That number will go up. In fact, there are kindergartners who will be in those classrooms next year that don't even live in our community yet. It's a very mobile, it's a much more mobile population. Lionel Lakes, and then we have the immersion, Forest View immersion. Lionel Lakes, 35 kindergartners, 2 sections. Linwood, 34. Scandia, and we know this from our boundary work, that Scandia, we rolled quite a bit more enrollment over to Scandia. You can see that with 47 kindergartners. We are watching that number. That's a large
big
number.
That's a
Yep, and we're watching that. We have elected not to put a teacher there yet. If we lose 2 or 3 kids, that number works. If we gain another student or 2 or 3, then we're going to need a teacher there. So we're watching that. Wyoming, 57, 3 teachers, 19. It's on the low end. There's room for that grade to grow as well. Let's jump to first grade. Again, currently rolled up kindergartners into first grade. You can see the number of students enrolled in first grade projected for next year at 361. 16 teachers for an average class size of 22.56. And
It's another big number in Scandia in first grade, too.
correct, and that's another number we're watching there as well. Yep.
Yeah, it is good to see some
That's
population in
And
Scandia.
having big numbers is
I
kind of
know.
refreshing,
It's
isn't it?
exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's not that they put in a big housing development. We're
No,
moving
I know,
enrollment
but
from.
still,
Yeah,
it looks
that's
good.
right.
But it's exciting.
Yeah, it's a viable school now because of the work that we did. Yep. Second grade, 329 students enrolled today. That number will adjust up and down between now and the start of next year. 15 teachers, 21, almost 22 students on average. Third grade, 388, 21 and a half students on average. Fourth grade, our parameter in fourth grade is 32 or less. Our parameter in grades 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3 are 25 or less. So we're within those parameters that we set for ourselves, although we have a couple of higher ones. For an average in fourth grade of 27.38. Fifth grade, 431. It's a big class. 18 teachers, 23.94 on average. We will pay attention to these numbers all the way to the end of the year. There will be attention paid to these class sizes throughout the summer. And we actually have staffed these classrooms with an additional kindergarten section not yet placed, knowing that kindergarten numbers are going to go up. If enrollment continues to go up, and a headline in the Forest Lake Times today, if you saw it, was that the upper school at North Lakes Academy is being rolled into their elementary building. And we would expect and we would welcome enrollment from North Lakes Academy. I am super proud of what we can provide for our students in our middle school and high school, and we'll serve those students well if they choose to come over to Forest Lake Area Schools, where we have robust options from career tech ed. We talked about the ag program tonight, our music program, and the list goes on that we can offer those kids. So if enrollment grows through families coming back from homeschool, charter schools, housing developments, it provides more opportunity to address class sizes because of the additional enrollment. Question on the elementaries before I move to the middle school and high school.
I had a question about immersion.
Yep.
How has that been going as far as like the current students? Are they staying in it? I know they have choices to stay at their home school and
Yep.
not come to the immersion program. I just was wondering how that was panning out.
Yeah.
Seemed a little low in some areas,
Yeah,
so
we
just wasn't sure.
have captured about 50% of the Lino kids
Okay,
into immersion at Forest View.
okay.
Good.
And we've retained most of the kids attending Forest View. That's consistent with the early survey that we put out to families, asking, with immersion moving to Forest View, are you likely to move with the program or stay at your home school or Lino Lakes? And that was about 50-50 at that time, and that's playing out
And
here.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to maybe stay at Lionel then?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. And you can see the enrollment at each of these grade levels with the third line there, 25 in first grade, 27 in Forest View. And across the board, we have one teacher in each of those immersion sections, with the exception of fifth grade, where we have two. And we had two teachers, one at Lino Lakes, one at Forest View. So that's some of the elementary attrition is through the immersion program.
I see, okay.
Hopefully that's a baseline and a floor, and the program will now grow from there. Transitions are tough
They are.
for families. Other questions on elementary? Okay, not seeing any.
Move on.
So middle school, I'm sharing here the FTE assigned at 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade for the core disciplines of English Language Arts, Math, Science, and Social Studies. Those disciplines at each grade level are staffed with 3 teachers, resulting in very consistent class sizes, 28, almost 29 in 6th grade, 30 and a half in 7th grade, and 29 across the board in 8th grade. You'll recall the questions we got when we moved 6th grade to the middle school. Will class size balloon when they get to the middle school? And you can see here that our class size in 6th grade and 7th and 8th is consistent with the upper grade levels at our elementary schools. Quick transition to the high school. What you'll see is, along with on the left, the core disciplines, English Language Arts, Math, Science, and Social Studies, the individual class requests by students. And English 9A, English 9B are 2 requests. Math, Algebra 2A, 2B are 2 requests. So total requests on the left. The FTE assigned ELA is 11. That creates a class size average of 31. Math, 9 teachers, average class size of 30. Science, 29, just under 30. 10 FTE in Social Studies, 31 is the created built-in average class size. Staffing across the high school now, dropping down to the bottom line. We're now including all classes at the high school, not just the core. This includes world languages, career tech ed, music classes, physical education classes, all classes with 1,800, and Jim probably knows the exact number of students registered, 1840 something, creates 26,540 individual class requests, taking 7 classes across the entire school year. With 78 FTE, creates an average high school class size of 29.58. You can travel to other high schools in the metro area, and their class size will be 32, 33, 34.
And just to add to that, Dr. Massey, that would include when we have a music class, it's got 100 students in it.
Correct.
So that's going to pull that average class size up. So really, the 29.58 is kind of on the high side for what students are going to experience.
Yep. It does not include students in special education courses. We will have run students in special education courses at 4 or 5 kids. We exclude those just to protect the average from being inflated or adjusted by those low class sizes.
It just seems like staffing is great at high school. It seems like everything's matching as far as the needs and the different core classes.
I think if Mr. Caldwell was here, he'd say it's tight in some areas.
It is?
And because if the average is 31 in social studies, Rich Elliott might have 35 in a world history. You might also have 25 in another section. It's just the way the schedule works for kids. They want music here, they want AP Calc. The only time they can get world history is third hour, and it's 35. So it ebbs and flows that way, and it's a range.
I think that's better than it has been in the past. Don't you think? Like,
It's
like with
fairly
my daughter,
consistent, I think.
It seems like the class sizes were kind of big
Yeah.
5-10 years ago at the
My
high
son
school,
was
but-
in elementary. I remember it being, he was like 34 in sixth grade.
Yeah,
I
so
remember that.
I-
They had
I
no
wanna-
room in those rooms.
Yeah, I want to point you to
So,
the
it's pretty
2018 operating referendum. You'll recall that we made a commitment to lower class size average, especially in grades kindergarten, first grade, and second grade.
Good reminder.
We have done that, and we have held on to that for each of the last 8 or 9 years. And that has a trickle effect into other grades as well.
Very
Member
good.
Christensen.
I just wanted to make a point about the middle school. I know we're not discussing this specifically right now, but I would really like to see another counselor at the middle school.
I agree.
And I think that would be really important, adding the sixth grade there, if there's a way we can find that and work through that. I know that our families would really appreciate that with the addition of the sixth grade there, and still just having the 3 counselors. If we could add another one over there, find a way to do that, I think that'd be really important.
And Member Christensen, one of the final conversations we had on Tuesday when we met was with a little bit of FTE remaining and some other adjustments. Principal Miller is looking at ways to address student support needs, one of which could be a counselor or some other piece. So that is front and center for the staff there as well.
Thank you.
And I know when we discussed that as well, it was kind of, there isn't a gap at the elementary so much, correct? But there is a little bit more needs at the middle school. Is that correct?
You'll recall we added a principal last year, or an assistant principal. So we brought a grade level, and the decision with counselor input and admin was the idea was to bring support at the administrative level, to
Okay.
provide administrative support for students, behavior needs, other needs that kids have, thereby freeing up time for the counselors. The counselors, in all fairness, would say the demand is pretty significant.
Yeah.
504
Heard
plans,
that.
attending IEP meetings, meeting the needs that kids have in family communications, all those things
Right.
are demanding. So we're looking at ways in which we can address that. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have one quick question, if you could refresh my memory. Backing up to the first page, what does it mean? Is that, and was it something that was done at the legislature with the special ed funding formula? Said it was that 250,000 revenue enhancement?
Yeah, it really is the way in which special education is funded, that we made a transition 2 years ago in
Okay.
qualifying for a hold harmless provision in special
Yeah,
education
okay.
funding formula. And that generated, the year we're in now, 2 years ago, about $500,000 of additional special education revenue, in addition to the cross subsidy that you might be referring to.
That's, okay.
That they closed that gap on.
Great,
Yep.
thank you for that clarification.
Is that what we discussed in finance, that Director Rudberg, Heidi talked about the special ed difference that she was talking about?
Yeah, there's, not to get too
No, I
much
mean,
down
but
this.
that's part of that, right?
The state's
Okay.
also unfortunately looking to pull back on special education funding. The level set by the legislature is to find $250 million across the state in special education expenditures, and the governor's supplemental budget bill increased that number to $300 million. So we're anticipating reductions in special education funding. What they're earmarking currently is to eliminate the ADSIS program, because that is special education revenues applied to districts who apply, but it's grant money through special education funding to defer kids from entering special education
Right.
Right.
by meeting early needs and deferring them from qualifying for special education services and having an IEP. So if they eliminate that program, it seems counterintuitive, but they're trying to right-size their budgets too.
Makes no
Very
sense.
good.
That's a good reminder to reach out to your elected officials. It would be detrimental to our students.
Agreed?
Certainly would.
So administration would recommend that the board adopt our right-sizing proposal of these adjustments. The revenues are embedded in the overall budget that we'll present. The reduction of 6 FTEs is in what would be part of your approval tonight, and you'll see that in the staffing recommendation.
I move to approve the proposal as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No,
All right.
I was just going to say, I think this is really great information for us to kind of walk through it all, to understand the pieces, because it is a lot of work that went into this to figure out the best way that
Yeah.
didn't impact class sizes
Yeah.
and to kind of keep what we promised to our students and our staff. So, yeah, thank you for this. This is well done. and
great
thank you.
report.
Really well done.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those statements and thank staff for, obviously, to be able to maintain class sizes.
Yep.
And I mean, that speaks to a lot of work went into that. When we looked at the new boundaries, we looked at closing the school and to maintain those class sizes and still be able to cut some funding out of that at the same time.
Right.
That's going to be huge for the system and the stability and the growth moving forward, so. Yeah, thank you for all that work, and I'm sure it wasn't easy.
Yeah, the administrative team, we've got countless hours into the tedious work of analyzing staffing, evaluating staff, making heart-wrenching decisions on staffing. It's hard work. It's all ties to people, and it wears heavy on staff going through this work.
Efficiencies and optimizations are probably the hardest thing that you can do. It's really easy to make class sizes small by hiring a whole bunch, but that's not sustainable. So,
Right.
Exactly.
thank you all.
We have to manage our budget.
Any other discussion on this? All right, Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call?
Sure. Okay, Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Castle?
Aye.
Member Christensen?
Aye.
Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Rebline?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, that brings us to 8.4, adopt resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of probationary teachers. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would point you to the list in your manila folder tonight. Teachers new to the school district have a probationary period. At the end or during this probationary period, such a teacher is either offered another teaching contract or not renewed for a successor year. Beginning in January each year, the district and building administration begin staffing meetings where they review and discuss anticipated enrollment, staff who will be going on or returning from leaves of absence, retirements and resignations, the probationary teacher's performance, class sizes, and the overall budget and funding levels for the next school year. So tonight, administration is presenting to you a list of probationary teachers and action on those based on administration's recommendation for the non-renewal or of their contract. Some of these probationary teachers are filling a position where a teacher is due to return from a leave of absence. Others are non-renewed for other reasons, including performance or staffing needs, and administration would recommend your approval of the non-renewal of the folks on the list in front of you.
Move to approve 8.4.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call?
Okay, Member Castle?
Aye.
Member Rebline?
Aye.
Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Christensen?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, brings us to 8.5, recommendation to approve Spanish Immersion 6 and Spanish Immersion 7. Director Jacobson.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair Peterson, Chair Reberline, other members of the board. Dr. Massey, thank you for having me back here again tonight. During our last meeting, we talked a bit about 2 new immersion opportunities that we wanted to create at the middle school. Our current immersion programming includes students at the middle school taking social studies in Spanish in 6th and in 7th grade, and then transitioning to an immersion class in 8th grade. I think Chair Rebbeline mentioned earlier some great opportunities that we have now realized after having moved 6th grade to the middle school. And one of those, we've identified an opportunity to really bolster conversational Spanish in 6th and 7th grade. We have seen a question was asked around some data, which I think was a very fair question. What have we seen in terms of our interest in social studies versus traditional immersion in Spanish? The students registering, asking for a conversational, everyday immersion Spanish has held pretty strong in the last 5 or 6 years. Our registrations for social studies taught in Spanish have dropped by more than half. And I think students are seeing that they would really like to learn how to speak Spanish out in the real world instead of primarily through a subject area. So this proposal that you would see here tonight would be to create opportunities similar to Immersion 8 in the 7th and 6th grade. These would be semester-long elective experiences that students would have. And then all students going forward would learn social studies taught in English. And so the middle school administration has worked in closeness with the Spanish department at the middle school, who very much supports this change. It really leans into feedback that we've heard from families around what they're looking for in their immersion, their secondary immersion experience. And it leans on the fact that at the secondary we can offer people who are highly proficient in Spanish but are highly trained by going through Spanish education degrees. And so administration would recommend approval of this particular proposal.
All right, thank you, Director Jacobson. Do we have any questions before we move to a motion?
Well, I think it's a great move. I mean, yeah, for sure. Thank you for the data.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would move to approve.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say, I think that it was probably something that we've needed for a while, so I think it's a great addition to, if we continue on that path, if we're going to give the immersion as part of our school, we want to make sure that we keep those kids moving forward, so, but thank you. I think it's a great addition. Thanks for the work and your team and getting this done.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead, Member Kessel.
this brings a more general Spanish talking with each other as opposed to a specific course.
Correct.
So I think it's more well-rounded for learning another language to do that.
Yeah, and I think in many ways our Spanish educators at the secondary level would agree with you.
Yeah, Member Tyson.
So one quick question. So social studies immersion dropped, right? Significantly, you said?
Yes.
So has the course that's being offered grown in the 6th grade? Have the numbers grown?
We only currently offer this course in grade 8.
Okay.
And so now we would be offering it in 6th and 7th grade. So the students who have continued in Spanish immersion into the middle school have really held on to wanting to take this course in 8th grade.
Okay.
Up until recently, when we had added 6th grade to the middle school, the immersion class at the middle school was a semester in 7th and then a semester in 8th. And so that's how we had that immersion experience bridged across both years. When we moved some things around on the middle school schedule, now going forward, it'll be a year-long experience in 8, and the Spanish department and the administration is recommending adding a similar experience in grade 6 and 7.
And then, so do we know numbers, I guess I'm asking?
I don't
You
have
don't have
how
that,
many
but-
how many would be. I'm predicting based on what they have this year in
This year.
immersion 8, close to 40.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, great. Thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that additional explanation too, because this is one of the pieces of feedback that we got as a board when we looked at moving the 6th graders to the middle school was, what about the students who would have been in 6th grade immersion? And I think this shows that the district can be nimble and we can react quickly and we can find solutions. And wish we would have had it in the program for this year, but we corrected that quickly, so.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, assuming this gets approved tonight.
Yeah,
we'll have
assuming
corrected
it gets
that
approved,
quickly,
for
but,
sure.
yeah, thank you for putting the work into this.
Yeah, and just for clarity's sake, this would be part of the program going into next year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to 8.6, approve proposal for employee group, life, and accidental death and AD&D.
Accidental
Long
Death and
term.
dismemberment.
Death and
Long-term,
dismemberment. Thank you. I was trying to remember what the second D was. Insurance and LTD insurance. Dr. Massey.
thank you, Mr. Chair. During the past year, the District Employee Benefits Committee has been reviewing the district's life and long-term disability LTD group insurance. The district's required by law to go out for proposals on group life insurance and LTD insurance at least every 60 months. The district has requested proposals for group life and accidental death and dismemberment and group life long-term disability insurance. Specifically, specifications, were submitted to 8 different carriers, 4 life carriers and 4 LTD carriers submitted proposals. The request for proposals process resulted in recommending remaining with Madison National Life Insurance Company at the current benefits, but with reduced rates for group life and accidental death and dismemberment insurance and LTD insurance. And a tabulation of those proposals is included in your packet. So the recommended motion for you tonight would be to award LTD to Madison National Life Insurance Company, their combined bid with LTD at premium of 0.29% of covered payroll. On the life and accidental death and dismemberment award, we'd recommend awarding that to Madison National Life Insurance as well. Combined bid, life and accidental death and dismemberment at a premium of 0.124 and 0.019 of per $1,000. There's no plan design change with either of these proposals, so same level of coverage. And the group policies would go into effect October 1st, 2026. With that, administration recommends your approval.
All right, thank you, Dr. Massey. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve 8.6.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this one? Member Castle.
So, am I hearing this correctly? They're offering the same coverage at actually a reduced cost.
That's the way it appears to me. Yes.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
That's great.
The
5 years.
the miracles never cease.
For
Grab it
insurance.
while you can.
Well, part of that is their assessment of risk across the public sector and across public school entities. Obviously, we're a fairly predictable employment group in terms of age and history. And so they've got all those metrics and data, and that feeds into their analysis of rates.
Excellent.
Sounds good to me. All right, is there any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk, will you please take a roll call?
All right, Member Castle.
Aye.
Member Christensen.
Aye.
Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Rebeline.
Aye.
And Member Antonsen votes aye. The ayes have it.
All right, thank you. Bringing us to 8.7, ratify the 2025 to 2027 Forest Lake Principals Agreement. Dr. Massey.
I'm pleased to bring to you tonight a tentative agreement with our principal group. They are a collective bargaining group, and this agreement represents the years starting July 1, 2025. We're currently in the first year of this agreement through June 30th, 2027. There are, aside from updating dates and a couple of language things, there's 2 updates I would point you to. The first would be on page 21, and that is the addition of 11th year of experience factor at $5,050. So that would be added to the steps for experience, creating an 11th year and above experience at, not a cumulative, those are not cumulative numbers. So that would move a principal in their 11th or 12th and beyond years from $4,000 to a total of $5,050. That would go into effect on January 1st of 2026. So essentially in year one, it would be half of that rate because it's half the year, and then the full rate in the second year. And then on page 20, you'll see the corresponding salary increases for year one, which would be Appendix A there, 25, 26, and 26, 27, across our different principal levels, elementary, middle school APs, middle school principal, high school principal, community school principal, and middle school and high school principals. Those increases, along with the addition of the 5 principals who qualify for the 11th step, are within the parameters that the board provided for administration to work with. And with that, administration would recommend your approval.
All right, thank you, Dr. Massey. We entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this?
Just have a quick question on page 20, under 5. Could you refresh my memory around those stipends that we're looking at? Or did you already mention this?
Are you on page 21?
21.
I think they're on page 20 under 5.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, you're
they're
talking about
assigned to the
section 5
following-
stipends?
Talks about all the buildings they're assigned to
Yep.
and,
Yep, so that goes back decades. And those rates go back probably 15 years.
okay,
And that is in lieu of principals vouchering for in-district travel
okay,
from Scandia to the district office, Scandia to the Ed Center where we have Ad Council.
okay, so it's
Or
travel.
Linwood, it's in-district travel.
In-district travel,
primarily.
okay,
And those rates were indexed at a 3% increase annually.
okay,
So those rates over the last 15 years, give or take, have been adjusted at a 3% level. So I
Yeah,
don't know
just-
exactly what those levels are, it depends upon when a principal came into those rates.
thank you for that clarification. But under 5, it doesn't say travel in there, so,
No, it's a general stipend for expenses.
gotcha, okay,
Broadly defined, which would include the in-district travel. So we wouldn't accept a mileage voucher for a principal traveling within the
Right.
district.
And what else would it be then if it isn't for travel? Yeah,
Yeah, I would say, if they're purchasing literature, if they're purchasing professional books.
okay, so just a general.
General, yep.
Gotcha, thank you for refreshing my memory.
Yep.
So,
Member Corcoran.
I was just going to say, you said that there's 5 that are over the 11th year in this bargaining group?
You're going to ask me to remember
Yeah, you
which
just said
ones are.
that. No, I was just going to say, you mentioned 5, right?
I believe there's 5. Mr. Caldwell, 4? Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a long time. So we're very
Yes.
blessed.
We're very
and
blessed.
honored
That's right.
that they're still with our district
Yeah.
after that long.
Yeah.
It's really the experience and all the energy and all the passion that's gone in all those years to stay with our district. That's impressive. So thank you for that. That's great news. Yeah.
If there aren't other comments, I want to make this comment, that, and you've heard me say this before, that great schools require great principals.
They do.
You're going to have pockets of
Absolutely.
great things taking place. You have, great teachers who will do great work. But you're not going to have a system that drives that level of performance across the system without a highly skilled principal.
It's true.
These folks are extremely valuable to the learning work taking place in our schools. We work hard to keep our focus on instruction, the academic work. Obviously, managing schools is a big part of the job, but being the instructional leader is a core function of their work. And being skilled at that work is what drives high-quality instruction across our system. So we're grateful for the talent, Member Corcoran. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful for the team that we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would add to that, to say that they're well-respected, they're well-liked, the students, the staff, everybody. And so they're the boss in the room, and they do it in a manner that gains respect from the students and the staff, and that's commendable.
Yes.
It's a really good
Another
team.
thing is, it's not always a 9-to-5 job, as we all know.
It
In these
is- it is
positions,
rarely a 9
It
to
is
5.
rarely a 9
Is
to 5
anything in
job.
education?
Every day is different.
Well,
Public work is different than private, I would
It's
say.
7:45, we have a principal here, and
I know,
this
he's
is probably
still
gonna be an
here.
early evening for him, because he's at all the events and activities, and all of our
True.
principals
I
are
know.
like that. They're
It's very true.
they're
Did
so
we do-
committed.
Do we do a roll call, member chair?
We will,
yet.
yeah.
On 8.7, okay.
We will.
Yeah.
I believe we have a motion and a second on the table.
do.
If I'm
Yeah.
keeping track of things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we ready? All right,
Okay, do we have
then.
any other discussion? All right, Member Clerk.
Member Castle.
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Christensen.
Aye.
And Member Rebline.
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
Okay, that brings us to 8.8, request permission to bid long-term facilities maintenance work at maintenance building. Dr. Massey.
Thank you. To comply with the bid laws and to obtain the best possible pricing, the district is requesting permission to bid LTFM work at the maintenance building. The engineering firm for this work will be ISG, and because of the small scope of the project, district personnel will serve as the construction manager for the work. In accordance with district long-term facility maintenance plan, the main areas of work on this project would include roofing, sprinkler system, and heating, cooling system upgrades. A bid announcement will be published in the Pioneer Press, and the bid opening will take place in early May, should you approve tonight. Administration recommends your approval.
Move to approve 8.8.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion?
Have we used ISG before?
Yeah, they were the main construction manager for all the secondary projects in the 2015 bond. They've been partners with us, along with Carl Sanderson, on either of them on all of our projects.
Wasn't that ISC?
Nope, ISG.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, great. Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion? Member Christensen.
I'd just like to say that I'm a new member of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and we met at the maintenance facility, which I had never been inside of, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And it was really impressive, all the work that they're doing out of that older building, and I had no idea that that used to be the hockey rink, and the scoreboard is still up there, and Mr. McKinnon was pointing out the hockey pucks still, or the holes in the ceiling from the hockey pucks. So I mean, and a couple of the folks that were there giving the tour, you know, they really try to reuse products, and the staff really has, we have some long-term staff over there in that department, and in other departments too, but they are really, you know, they were talking about like the doorknob, they know which doorknob goes where. I mean, it's really impressive, so I feel really confident that, you know, the money will be used really wisely, because they're really doing a great job over there with their maintenance and doing what they can with what they have, so it was impressive.
And you let Mr. McKinnon off the hook for putting some of those holes in.
Well,
the
I think he might have mentioned that.
So it's probably a long time coming, that
Yeah.
this work is
Yes,
being done, is
yeah.
what you're
So-
saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Member Christensen, was it pretty visible, the work that needed to be done in that building then?
Well, I'm not an expert, I guess I wouldn't say, but
But it
I
is-
do know the work that they were doing on the roof, that they were going to
Yeah.
be doing. I don't have all the terminology right, but yes, I think that the work needs to be done.
I wonder how old
Yeah.
that building is.
It is old.
Well, it
building.
said in here, what did it say? 19.
forget.
The last remodel was
1988?
1985.
85?
I remember
Wow.
being there when it was an ice arena. It
Yeah.
seems like a zillion years ago.
Well, look at the cost the city's looking at spending on
I
their
know it.
maintenance building.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a small price to
Yeah.
Right.
maintain some really valuable
Right.
space to us.
Yeah.
Very
Oh,
good.
gosh. Memories.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk?
Okay, Member Christensen.
Aye.
Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Rebline.
Aye.
Member Castle.
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
All right, motion carries, bringing us to Item 9.1, the school board self-evaluation, Member Christensen, or Member Corcoran, I'm sorry.
Close enough. But yes, I heard back from Gail Gilman from MSBA, and I asked her if we could separate the self-evaluation from the rest of the workshop, and she got back to me this morning, and she said that we certainly can take the school board self-evaluation now and participate in the workshop at a later date. One thing, she just wants to talk to me a little bit more about it. She would do the one-page report. This means I would share the one-page overview report with the board, and the full report would be shared during the facilitated workshop. So we can break it apart. So we just have to find a timeline that works for us, and after, we have important work to do the next few weeks. So, but after that, so I'm going to set up a time and talk to her about that.
Thank you, Member Corcoran. Member Atkinson.
And so like at the later date, when she does the workshop with us, we will get the full, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yep, it'd be like a one-page report. I'm not sure, that's what I have to talk.
Initially.
Yeah, we get the full report when we meet as a group, as a
And-
workshop.
So do we just sign an agreement on, like we did with this
Yeah,
executive
I
search
think that's
thing?
what she's saying is,
Okay.
she needs to, we need to
Okay.
talk about that a little bit more. But this just came today, so I haven't had a chance to discuss it
Sure.
with her.
Thank you for
Member-
doing it.
Member Tyson.
And then Member Corcoran, can you refresh our memories on the costs involved for both of
Ask
those? I
me that.
know, we've looked them up a couple of times.
I
thought it
know
was
we
like
have, we
$1,300
did.
for the
Oh, here it
full- I wanna
is.
hear that.
I
Yeah,
actually have the
total.
email.
Good.
Let's see. It wasn't that much. The full, okay, it's $13.95, I believe, for the whole report, with her attending in person
And then
and
the full
facilitating and
report.
everything, yes.
In the full
Yeah,
report.
$13.95.
Perfect, thank you
Yep.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't know that an official action is required here tonight. I would just ask Member Corcoran to stay in touch with
Yep,
MSBA, maybe
yep.
bring us a proposal
Yep.
at our next board meeting.
Yes.
And
Yep.
we'll just kind of go from there and hopefully get something scheduled shortly. Maybe you can set up some proposed dates with
Yep.
MSBA as
Yep.
well.
I know she said it takes a while, like, we probably get that, a self-evaluation report pretty quickly as far as, because it's just a questionnaire.
Okay.
But the meeting, she said it takes 5 to 6 weeks to like set it up.
Okay.
Because her calendar is very full, so.
Yeah, so maybe
yeah.
with the
Yeah.
anticipation of a new superintendent, we do that part in July or early August.
Yep,
And
yep.
then we do the self-evaluation as soon as we possibly can. I think it'll help us in the superintendent work that we're doing here.
Okay, sounds good. I'll talk to Gail.
Yeah,
right.
thank you so much, Member Corcoran. I know that's a lot of work outside the boardroom. that
It's
you're
okay.
going through here.
It's all right.
All right, if nobody else has any other comments on that topic, we can move to 9.2. All right, 9.2, school board vacancy. I spoke with Member Corcoran about this and trying to come up with what is our next plan of action. I think Member Corcoran and I agree that we'd like to propose to the board that we go out for applications again. We give it approximately a month, and we would readdress the applications at our board meeting on May 7th. So I would propose that we ask administration to open the application process as early as tomorrow or whatever their schedule would allow, and have that application run until May 6th, and we'll have that discussion on May 7th. Very open discussion on this, ideas. Love to get that work done. So open it for discussion or ideas.
I don't know.
Yep.
That's-
All right, I see no additional discussion or proposals, so unless there's an objection, do we want to move forward with that?
Yep,
I'm good with it.
yep, me too.
All right, we will adopt that by unanimous consent. Do you have what you need, Joy?
Can you want to post it in the Pioneer Press again?
We'll leave that to administration's discretion, if that satisfies the board, of course.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's to your discretion, Joe. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. That actually brings us to item 10, the superintendent's search. We can move right to that, or we can recess for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let's,
Could we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Could we-
Let's
Till-
recess
till
for
8.
5 to 10 minutes. We'll come back when we're ready to reconvene.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we are in recess. All right, I now
All
call
right.
the regular school board meeting for Forest Lake Area Schools, Thursday, April 2nd, back to order. Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call of attendance?
Sure, Member Antonsen is here. Member Castle?
Here.
Member Rebeline?
Here.
Member Tyson?
Here.
Member Christensen?
Here.
And Member Corcoran?
Here.
Everybody's here.
All right, I would like to immediately move here to item 10.1, Superintendent Search Stakeholder Survey Results. Welcome, Dr. Bittman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board. Thank you again for coming back. We have so much to celebrate, some of which the board already knows. So this is as much for you as it is for the community. I continue to be impressed with the level of engagement from students, staff, and community members. You knew from a previous communication that this school district has had more engagement than almost any search that we have done in a similar size district. We had over 687 survey results.
Yeah.
We had 7 different work sessions. We reached out specifically to a database from all 50 states, and I'll share some of that information with you tonight. So the information throughout all of those sessions was very clear. There was not a lot of disaggregation or disalignment, rather, of the feedback. And so I don't think any of you or the community will be surprised at what I share tonight. I also want to commend this particular board for their commitment to transparency and conversation. This board, as much as any board I've ever seen, has really leaned into not only the community feedback piece and the staff feedback, but also in making sure that people have the information. It's all on the website. You've seen the comments. You've seen everything straightforward. And so I commend you for engaging your community like that and continue to share the story along the way. So you have a number of things in your packet that I'll just point out, and then we'll start going through some of them. Some of them are for this particular section, and then some of them will be for our discussion around candidates for consideration. The very first thing that you should see in your packet is a list of the criteria that was used based on the feedback that all of your stakeholders.
Pardon me, did I get one?
Oh, it's in the folder,
Oh,
Gail.
it's right next
Nope,
to you.
this is the folder
To
Joy
your-
provided.
Is
Okay.
it the folder between you and Member Castle?
No, this
Nope.
one.
Let me get you another one.
That's sorry to interrupt, but I'm like,
No, I'm glad
Well,
that you had that.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to our
Oh,
attention.
she needed it, yeah.
Yes, we all need to. make
Yes,
sure we
thank you
have
for
this.
that, Gail. Appreciate it.
thank you.
So the first thing you see is a document that really has the criteria. You've seen this before, it's on your website, but this is as much for you as it is for the public. These are the things that all stakeholders have said have raised to the top in terms of characteristics and what the new superintendent should have to lead the Forest Lake area schools. So again, this information goes to the survey information, the work sessions, the listening sessions, etc. And so again, just want to point out that that's the information that we've used to screen different applicants to bring you a number of candidates tonight for consideration. And so our team goes through those with an eye to this. These are different in every district, and so this really drives the work that we're doing, which comes from the community, which comes from all stakeholders, so appreciate that. The next thing you have in your packet is a document that talks about recruitment data, and what that says, and again, as much for you as for our community and our internal folks, that there were 1,851 superintendent candidates who were contacted about the Forest Lake area schools, about this position. In addition to that, when we talked to those 851, when we got feedback from them informally, they really indicated that it was one of the things that stood out about Forest Lake was the district location and the size. They recognized some of the feedback we got from stakeholders in saying it's like a little town, but yet we have so many amazing opportunities, not only here in the district, but in community. I provided a geographic breakdown, and you'll see how many candidates were specifically talked to or communicated with about this particular session. And so you'll see that they cover all 50 states, and you'll also see the number of applicants from each state that was moved forward. In addition to that, on the backside where you see 4 through 11, out of the 1,851 contacts, 24 of them ended up going through the process and completed the full application, which you have seen and have. The top candidates were screened based on the criteria that we have. And then what happened was, through a thorough investigation of each candidate, we did that, associates through the firm did that. They had one-on-one conversations with every candidate. In addition to that, they reached out to references, as well as a significant number of people that were not listed on their references. So you see in there things like state officials, other school administrators that are aware of their work or they possibly have worked at before, people who really knew the strengths, the things that they would be asking more about, and their capabilities. And so again, just a really thorough process before we get to the point tonight when we bring you some candidates. We always want to make sure that that's the case. And in addition to that, just know that as part of this process, as I communicated previously, prior to bringing names to you tonight, I was able to connect with all the candidates to say, are you fully committed to Forest Lake? Because our firm and I would never want to bring folks forward and then have them back out later. And unfortunately, we did have one person who stepped away from that, and I provided that information earlier to you. That remains private because that person isn't going to be part of this process, is not going to be approved. But I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. At this time, I would love to take any questions or thoughts or feedback about this, and then when complete, we can move on to the section where we talk more about the candidates, and I give you an opportunity to share and have some conversation.
Dr. Bittman, I have one request here. We have this this first sheet, recommend and consider. This is an aggregation of all the feedback you received. Would you mind summarizing this and reading it out loud? I don't see it published in our board documentation.
Are you talking specifically about this?
Speaking specifically of that, just for those who are watching at home so they can understand what criteria we're looking at based on the feedback we received.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank
and,
you.
And for those that are watching from home, this is also available on the website, so folks have access to that along the way. The first quality based on the feedback really were characteristics that related to the person absolutely needing excellent interpersonal skills. And so really that broke down to positive image of the district, listening to input from stakeholders, and being able to use all that feedback to ultimately make a decision that is best for Forest Lake area schools. The second criteria that was selected was a person who possesses the leadership skills, knowledge, and sensitivity required to respond to opportunities and challenges presented by a diverse student body and community. So it speaks to multiple perspectives, multiple feelings of support or opposition, someone who's able to do that enough where they want to listen, they take the information, but at the end of the day, when they have all that information, the recommendations that they bring forward to the board are what they believe is best. The third characteristic, I apologize, is the ability to really work with legislators, particularly around certain topics related to things specific to the district. So things like funding or budget or programming, etc. Really having a person who stays well connected to the legislature, builds those relationships, and is able to advocate for Forest Lake area schools. The fourth criteria that was selected was a strong moral compass. And it is important for me to note these were not in order of importance or how they came up. These were the characteristics. So the fourth one, as I said, someone who has a strong moral compass rooted in justice and equality with the ability to develop and communicate a vision for the future to the board, to the staff, and the community. And so recognizing all of those different things, but at the end of the day, they do what is right, and that you can count on them to do that. The next one, it refers to just being a really strong communicator, not only in speaking, but in listening and in writing. The themes kept coming up over and over, the need to really engage people, to provide clarity, to make sure that they're representing our district well and are able to communicate as situations come up and what needs to happen in the future, and someone who's going to be forward thinking. The next one that came up was really a commitment to being community focused and visibility, someone who's actively engaged. This is one, if I were to put them in order, would definitely be toward the top. people were really strong to say, we really need someone who's going to be present, and they're going to be spending lots of time in the district, and they're going to be, this isn't going to be a small stop for them or a short stop. We want someone who's going to have deep roots and fully committed to being in the Forest Lake community. Another one that came up was just being strongly committed to being student-centered. So making sure that as they're making decisions, they're making recommendations to the board, that students remain the priority in those decision-making. And again, that was consistent with all of the stakeholder feedback. The next one, there's 3 more. The next one really related to really having a positive and inclusive environment, a safe learning environment, a healthy learning environment, really making sure that continue not only focusing on the academic pieces, but making sure that kids and staff feel safe and that the organization is healthy. The second to last one was really possessing an ability to enhance student performance. So this goes right to academics and also in every type of opportunity that's provided. It could be through various clubs, it could be through sports or extracurriculars, just really making sure that we are performing at high levels and what we're doing is a return of investment, that people can see that what we're doing is working and we're making progress toward our goals. The last one in there really talked about promoting a positive and professional environment that really is based on mutual trust and respect. And this was for faculty, for staff, for administrators, for the board, for everybody. There were feelings throughout that there were certain groups that felt divisive or not trusting or things like that. And so all the stakeholders were really focused on making sure whatever we're doing, we're creating relationships that are built on trust. And so that was something. You will see at the bottom, they did not make the top 10, but there were 2 that folks felt strongly about that just didn't make it in terms of the number of folks supporting, but I thought that we would make sure that we thought about those and we did consider them as ancillary type topics in the criteria. One, folks that are committed to both the academic and the extracurricular programs. So not focusing necessarily on one or the other, recognizing that the student experience people want to have in Forest Lake is more than one of those items. And then the second one that was worthy of noting in terms of the number of people is a number of people talked about the importance of having some level of school or classroom type experience. So there wasn't a lot of support for folks who didn't have something to do with instruction or had some experience with making what it's like to work in a school and to represent a community in that way.
All right, thank you for that, Dr. Goodman. I think it's so important that we keep that on the forefront of our mind as we work through this evening. Member Tyson, did I see you had a question or a comment? Or?
Oh, I was going to ask one. Thank you. So can you refresh our memories? I'm into that word tonight. We cannot name the applicants, so we go by the number?
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the candidate?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Dr. Whitman. Go ahead.
Okay. So tonight, as we talk about candidates, there's a few things that are really important to recognize in terms of statute and law so that we remain within that. All of the candidate information that you have, and for the public's sake, board members have the information on all candidates who applied, and they've had access to that, so they're coming to this meeting very well prepared and being able to talk about the various candidates. It would be against the law for any board member to name the candidate by name or to provide any specific information that a reasonable person, statute uses the word reasonable, a reasonable person might be able to identify who they are by talking about it.
Oh.
That will become public later in the meeting as you identify 4 to 6 people to move forward. So once the board approves those 4 to 6 candidates for the next round, then it is public. And I've had the opportunity to talk with every candidate to make sure they understand that. And so whatever the board decides tonight, they know that that will be public, and I will make sure that I provide a draft of a press release for you to look at and or modify that you can use on your website and send out to families who want to do that. So as part of the decision, someone will make a motion to accept the certain candidates without naming them. They'll say candidate 1, candidate 3, candidate 6. A second person will second that. You then will approve that as a board. And then, Mr. Chair, you would be responsible to say, here's been the process based on the feedback, based on our discussion, that we have now approved the following 4 to 6 candidates to bring forward.
Yeah, and just for clarity to the board, Dr. Bittman did provide me with a draft resolution for that.
Perfect.
So I'll make that motion when the time is appropriate, based on the language that he provided to me.
So in terms of this process, before we get into the actual people, I want to just, for sake of clarity and transparency and preparation, would like to just have a little bit conversation so that we're all coming at this with the same idea. So after doing many, many searches across the country like this, we've learned a few things as we've come into our board meetings. One of the things that sometimes can get in the way is board members can sometimes have their minds set because they've spent so much time on reading about the candidates, learning about the candidates, reading references, looking at the Spark videos, doing all these things. That's not what tonight is about. Tonight is about identifying 4 to 6 candidates that you would like to learn more about. It's not about selecting your superintendent tonight. You will have an opportunity to do that after you go through semifinalist interviews and get to know them a little bit, after you go through finalist interviews. So it'd be similar to saying, we wouldn't want you to make a decision based on the application materials alone. We provide lots of feedback. We then would want you to consider the letters of reference. Then we would want to look at all the stakeholder feedback. Then we want you to look at the Spark videos. Then you want to have conversation as a board. Then you want them to go through a semifinalist interview because you're going to hear things that sound great or not so great. And then you're going to identify folks for the finalists. So at the only time that you're focused on, I want that person, is after the finalist interviews and you've had all the information going up to that point. And so it's really my continued conversation with all boards that I work with is, again, just to refocus on be open-minded. You're thinking about which of the candidates best fit the criteria that all the feedback says is really, really important. And so I'm happy to do that. I'll also say, just for clarity with the board, and I've shared this before, and not surprising to this board, we've done an extensive job of feedback. You've done a great job of seeking that. Stakeholders have an absolute concern that this board will not be able to select a candidate. They are very worried about that. And that has come up in a lot of different comments in every session and in every survey. Comments such as, I don't think the board will be interested in doing this. Or I think some members of the board have it already picked out in their mind of how it's going to be. They are urging you, every single stakeholder, overwhelmingly is saying, we need the board to find us a candidate. This is what they're hired to do. We need them to do it, and we want to use this to unite the board. Overwhelmingly, they were very clear and articulate to say they do not want a interim position coming in here, and they're worried again that certain board members may want to do that and aren't coming into this ready to let the process go. That has not been my experience. You have been amazing to work with. You've had lots of great questions. You've looked at the feedback. And in every session and with every stakeholder, I've been able to say, that's not my experience. They are really doing a great job. They've been amazing to work with. They're looking at all the information. I would be shocked if they weren't able to come together and do this. And the board is committed to doing this well and right. So I just want you to know that I have shared that, but overwhelmingly, stakeholders want you to know that. And so I want you to just go into that with just a clear mind, again, just being open to that. And again, I make no judgment. This is just providing clarity to say your community is really saying they really want you to make this happen. Any questions or comments so far on the criteria or the process or anything that you're thinking about before we start talking about candidates?
No, I just want to say that by having all that information, especially the interviews, that really did, I loved all the different ways to see the candidate, like even physically see them. I mean, it helps me process. So thank you for the many areas of information that we got. I think it was really well done and comprehensive, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's been extremely valuable, and in fact, I
I agree.
appreciate the warning you heeded us earlier about, hey, don't try to pick your superintendent based on what you know, but I think I can speak for a lot of us saying, I feel like I know a lot about him, so I'm really prepared in going into the selection process this evening, and really look forward to getting to know them
Yep, I
more.
agree.
Yeah, Member Tyson.
Yeah, and I concur that the summaries provided by Ray and Associates were
Yes.
so helpful and beneficial. But I just want to say one thing before we start, that I'm proud and I'm just humbled that this many high-quality educators would want to come and work in our district. The videos and all the information on the candidates was outstanding. So thank you for that. And I think that it shows that Forest Lake Area Schools is a good place to work, and we're doing good things in our district, and we need a leader to keep us going in that direction. So just appreciate how high level all these candidates were.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate
I
it.
agree.
I too was really excited to see the candidates. They just have a breadth of experience and knowledge. I haven't seen that deep of a bench or that many really solid candidates come forward with such a passion for the district. And we spend a lot of time behind the scenes talking about, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you're going to be able to make it? Are you sure you're going to deliver? Because this is as much about us as it is about them, right? We want to make sure that whoever you decide is someone who's going to stick around for a while and be fully vested in this process. And I told you from the very beginning, and it wasn't lip service, we have so many amazing things happening in Forest Lake. Whether you talk about the staff, whether you talk about the various offerings and programs, whether you talk about the community support, that doesn't happen with every community and district that we support. And so it has been humbling and overwhelming to be part of that, and thank you for trusting in me and our firm to make sure that we can deliver and provide information for you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Pittman.
okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to give since each of the board members have spent countless hours reviewing information, all the information that they've had, I'll give a quick summary about the candidates. You have a bio in front of you. I listed the names, obviously, for you just for ease. Once I give a brief summary about them, what we will do is I'll go into the rubric, and each of you have a document in your packet that has a rubric. Let me pull it out. You should.
In the back?
It should look like this,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
okay? And so don't let this be overwhelming to you. I will help you and get through this,
Matrix. I
okay?
feel like we're in the Matrix.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So at the end of the day,
Take it, you know,
what will
remote.
happen is each of you will rank every candidate against every candidate. And then you will give me your pages, and then I will tally them up on an electronic sheet, and I will say, based on your ratings, here are the top 4 to 6 candidates.
Oh,
And then we will have conversation as a board of what that looks like.
And you're going to explain.
I am. Yep, it's overwhelming, so I will be able to help
Oh.
you.
Yep.
In a sense, what
Oh,
that process
comparing
is what you will be doing essentially is having to make a choice about every candidate. So you'll be saying, for example, okay, candidate 1, candidate 2, which of those 2 do I prefer? Circle that one.
Okay.
How about candidate 1 and candidate 3? How about candidate 1 and candidate 4? How about
An eye
candidate
exam.
1, 5?
Yeah.
How about 2 and 3?
Okay.
2 and 4, 2 and 5? It appears to be overwhelming. I guarantee you it is not. So it is not a factor. What that allows you as a group to do, and in almost every single situation that we do this with, it allows you to see where there's interest at a high level, because essentially people are going to have a number to them. So a candidate might have 47 points and be the top rank order, and somebody might have 4. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on the person with 4, because you have other candidates that are significantly higher. And so it allows us a starting point as a board to say, okay, based on this feedback, here's what we're thinking of as a board. and it allows for some discussion in that regard. And then ultimately, the board will decide as a team which 4 to 6, how many they want to go forward, et cetera. And again, as I said before, then we'll announce the names once the board approves that.
And just for clarity, Dr. Bittman, the aggregated scores that each of us place for each of the candidate numbers, not the candidate names, but candidate numbers, that's public information.
It's a good question. It's really not.
It is?
So
Okay.
it's a good question, so I appreciate it. We own that from a proprietary standpoint.
Okay.
So folks won't be able to see that. But what I will be able to do is show you, without names, to say candidate 1 has this many points, candidate 2 has this many points. So here are the candidates who are the top 4 to 6 based on points. Here are the candidates that don't come close to that 4 or 6. So I'll be able to share that part. What I won't be able to share are names or anything like that. What's also not public is which one of you voted how.
Okay, so that's actually very, very helpful. So we can put down our honest feelings without any concern for any type of retribution for that.
Yep. And so it really won't be, it's a good question, so thank you for asking. On this particular document, I put initials of board members so that I know whose turn theirs in.
I see.
But for the public, they don't have access to that and they don't know that. And so it's not at all about narrative. It's not about concerns or strengths or it's anything. We just know that you've now done all of this work to say, based on all this work, you're assigning ranks and numbers, and then I'm doing that for the whole board. So you have a starting point to say, okay, as a board, we believe these are the top 4 to 6 candidates. And then again, as I said, just as a reminder, this isn't the night to decide, like, this is the person we want as our superintendent. It really is about, we have 2 more phases before we get there, but based on these 10 candidates, here's the 4 we feel strongest about as a board, or here's the 6 we feel strongest about as a
Interesting.
board.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Wow,
Member
all right.
Castle.
So
Wow.
you will transpose 8, 9, and 10 to 7, 8, and 9.
I will not. The reason I didn't
Well,
do
then,
that,
there's no 10 on this.
yeah, yes, I will. I understand your question now, yes. And I'll clarify that when we start to go.
Yeah.
1 to 9, and
Yeah.
then 7 is.
Yeah, you are correct. In your bios, we crossed out the number 7 in terms of information in the number, so we'll go through that and we'll make sure
Okay,
that that's
so when we
correct.
fill out the rubric, the individual labeled 8 is really 7.
Yes,
The individual.
and so I'll
labeled-
go, yep,
Okay.
so I'll go through that as we go.
Okay, good. Great call out there,
Yeah.
Member Castle.
So once we get into that, we'll make sure everyone has the same numbers and candidates before we start going into the actual exercise.
Okay.
Any other questions before I start doing a quick review of the candidates?
It looks good.
Okay, here we go. The first candidate, you'll see a number of categories there. This individual has had significant leadership in large systems and longevity. These are things, again, that tie directly to the criteria. They have proven instructional depth and academic focus. And again, this is something that came through the experience, not only in a large system, but experience with all things teaching and learning. This particular person has had significant experience working with large groups of staff in both training, facilitating, and orchestrating that work. This person also has state-level influence and advocacy. So they have experience and are currently involved in state and national type initiatives on behalf of school districts and superintendents. This person, one of the things that came strongly from all of the folks that we talked with is this person is a relationship person. This is a people-first person. And as you probably saw from the recordings or the videos, you can tell each of the candidates has a very unique style, and I believe that you've been able to see that. In addition to that, the work has leaned that they are very student-centered in terms of their decision-making. So again, as a conclusion, they really have large system experience, instructional leadership, and proven relationships that really make them align to the criteria. Candidate 2. This person also has large system leadership and has a lot of expertise in navigating large systems and fiscal stewardship. So this particular person, one of their expertise, for example, is really related to budget and financing. So if that's something that is really, really important, you'll definitely want to learn more about that candidate. They also have some instructional experiences, and they have in the trenches experience. So they've been through a variety of different roles where they've served, and that brings them to their readiness as a superintendent. They also were recommended and references shared how they are a relationship-focused person and that they really can work hard and navigate ideas around trust. They also have local ties to our community, and they also have experience at the state level, particularly around advocacy, specifically around funding needs. So this is a person that really has a unique combination, both of local as well as budget and operational experiencing in districts similar to our school district here for Forest Lake area schools. The third candidate, you'll see, also has experience in very large systems and proven expertise. Forward thinking, strong instructional background were things that stood out. And this particular person received extremely high marks from who districts and state officials go to and recognize as experts in the superintendency. So this is definitely someone that, again, like the other candidates, has a unique talent and experience. This particular person also has very deep local roots. And so this individual candidate actually graduated from Forest Lake area schools and has a home and lives in the Forest Lake area system. So again, they have an exceptional background. They're relationship focused, and they're described by many as being somebody who is forward thinking and able to move people forward. Candidate 4. This particular individual also has extreme longevity in their district, showing commitment and loyalty. They also have had significant experience as a person who has navigated directly a lot of situations that oftentimes take many years for superintendents to experience because of the largeness and size of their district. So I would say there's probably not a lot of things from a tragedy or a difficult situation that they haven't been involved with navigating. People talked about this person's tenacity and the ability to get things done. They also talked about the ability to navigate complex change in systems requiring all of the things that were pointed out by stakeholders in terms of hearing multiple perspectives and making sure they could bring people together and make sure that they could make decisions when they have all that information. And again, they were endorsed by some extremely respected educational leaders, including a past National Superintendent of the Year that we talked to out of state. Candidate 5. Candidate 5 also has a very strong connection to this community. You will see information that they have a family within our community. They're extremely focused on relationships and trust building. This particular individual works with teams, school boards, and districts across the country around innovation, around effective teams, around building systems and structures and teams that are high functioning and able to move work forward. This is a person who has definite skills around being a strategic planner, and is considered to be someone who has been extremely progressive. This person also has experience as a superintendent, but as you will note in that, has not been a superintendent for a certain number of years. And so they've been in the superintendency, they've spent the last amount of time really guiding superintendents, guiding systems, guiding boards, and creating healthy, trusting teams. Candidate 6. This individual also has longevity in their position. So they've demonstrated a commitment to their school district. They served as a principal in multiple schools at multiple levels. There's a person who's been described as being very visible and community-minded, and someone who relies on relationships to move the work forward. They also have a strong commitment and track record around instruction, wanting to make sure that kids receive the instruction they need to move the work forward academically, as well as making sure that folks have the support in terms of staff to be able to do that work well in supporting our students. They are also considered by references and others to be someone who is collaborative and wants to bring a number of different voices to the table as they work through decisions. The next candidate, candidate 7, is a person who dropped out that we talked about, so we will not spend any time on that particular candidate, and we'll move on to, on this sheet, what is called candidate 8. Candidate 8 is a person that has experience as a superintendent. They've been recognized for their excellence in their leadership by the state of Minnesota. They're known for building trust and moving a district from having some difficult experiences to bringing folks together and having a more productive and healthy organization. They also have success in larger complex systems and have served as a principal in more than one area or level. They also have significant data behind them that talks about their ability to improve student achievement and academic results, and that is something, again, that has come forward from stakeholders as being important. They're also someone who's known for their transparency and not being someone who sits at a desk, someone who's out and about in schools and active in the work that's happening. Candidate 9. Candidate 9 has proven superintendent experience as well. They have a number of years as a superintendent. This particular person also has experience in the military, and they also have a strong business management background. They've been able to navigate financial difficulties in districts and to bring them to a more sustainable, healthier budget. They're also they're an extreme champion of the trades and career in tech. And there's a number of experience that board members have seen that have in developing those programs, creating partnerships with the community around those programs, and having experience themselves in being involved in those types of programs. They are also considered to be a transparent leader and have demonstrated success in terms of academic gains as they move forward. They're considered by some the references as being really a servant leader, so someone who really relies on people and is there to support and serve as needed for the good of the organization. And finally, candidate 10. This individual also brings significant experience in the superintendent role. They have experience in 2 different states as a superintendent and in 3 different districts with varying size, various complexity, various focus areas. They've also served in a number of roles, including teacher, coach, principal, etc. And they were described, like another candidate we talked about, as just having experience in the trenches, knowing what it's like at each level, being able to do that. They have a strong focus on finance, and they've navigated significant financial districts that they inherited when they became superintendents in districts and have been able to get them to a healthier place. That required, obviously, significant amount of community engagement, collaboration with the board, ability to make some hard decisions and to navigate change well for the betterment of the particular school district. They're also considered to be a people-first approach, and you'll also see that there was significant academic gains in a number of areas in districts that this particular individual has led. When we talked to this person about what interested them in this particular opening, they led with the fact that as a family, the community of Forest Lake, not only the school district, appealed to them. They believe that this is a community that they would want to be part of and something that they were excited to move into. This is also a person talked about the importance of servant leadership and wanted to make sure that that always remained at their core. And so that candidate as well, between the experience, the navigation of complex and difficult issues, the desire and connection of why they wanted to serve in Forest Lake, were all reasons, amongst many others, that they were selected for that particular position. So with the board, with that in mind, I'm always happy to take questions, but what I would recommend, with the information and the work that you've done before, that we now go into the rubric before we have conversations about these applicants, and then to have conversation as a board about those particular candidates. With that being said, this is your search. And so, be happy to take any questions or any guidance on how you would like the next part to go.
But before we move into the rubric here, I would just like to ask the board if, we had 24 applicants, we have 10 finalists here, 9 that we're considering this evening. Were there any of the remaining 14 that we want to bring forward for discussion, or are we happy with getting started with this list? I just want to make sure we're being thorough, we're not overlooking any individual.
I'm happy with the list.
I'm happy with the list.
Yeah.
And we have
Okay.
all the additional information.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot to digest, and I just want to make sure that we're not overlooking anyone. Okay. All right, with that, Dr. Bittman, how would you like to move forward?
Okay, so we're going to do some reorganizing because of the candidate who left. So candidates 1 through 6 on the bio and on your candidate matrix will remain exactly the same. The candidate on this particular matrix, who is listed as number 8, will now become 7. Candidate that's listed on that same sheet as 9 will now be candidate 8. Candidate 10 on that sheet will now be candidate 9. Does everyone have that, or are you interested in me going over that again? That is critical because
That
you're
is.
ranking people.
It is.
So I'll go through that last part one more time. Candidates 1 through 6 on that matrix stay exactly the same. The candidate who is listed as candidate 8, last name starting with S, is now 7. Candidate that was previously number 9, last name also starting with S, is now number 8. And the final candidate is now, that was 10, the only one remaining, is now 9. Are there any questions on that before we go on to our next step?
That appears to be clear. Thank you for that.
You
because
bet.
It is critical.
It is indeed. So you have 2 things in front of you. You have the bios that we went through, and you also have on the other side of this matrix a name for each of those numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the first couple so that until everybody feels comfortable, and then I'm going to give you the time to finish them. When you individually are finished with them, you're going to bring your completed sheet to me, and I'm going to start entering it into our database. And so that will then do the math for us, and then I'll be able to share with you where the candidates land for more conversation.
Okay.
So we're not going to select our ice cream?
Not yet. I think this is an advanced group, so we may not have to go through the ice cream example.
Okay.
Okay. So you've identified who candidate 1 is. So just take a look at who that candidate is. Okay. You have a question?
So you're going to fill out this, and we're going to do this.
Correct. So great clarification. All you're doing is circling a number for each of these. So don't worry about the back. That's for me, and also if you want a cheat sheet to remember who the candidates are with what number they are. So on this side of the sheet, where you have the numbers, you are going to look at the row, the very first row where it has a 1 and a 2. You have to make a choice. You don't get to opt out.
Okay.
Even if you don't like either candidate, or even if you like one of the candidates, you have to make a choice. you are either going to circle that you prefer candidate 1 or candidate 2. So you're comparing those two candidates only, and you're going to circle that. So I'll give you a second to do that.
And just keep going? Or wait?
I see some people
Okay.
looking. So when everybody's,
But we're not doing the row, we're doing the
nope,
first
right
one.
now, all you're doing is you're picking
One.
candidate 1 or 2.
Gotcha.
And I'll just look for your eyes when you're finished with that, and then I'll just go on to the next one. I'll walk you through a couple, and then we'll go, I'll let you go.
Okay. Give the next one.
Okay. So everybody should have one circle on their page, and the circle should be either number 1 or number 2. The next thing you are going to do is go to the numbers right next to that. You're now choosing between candidate 1 and candidate 3.
The next column.
Yep, so the very next column. So you're going to be going through candidate 1 compared to every one of the other candidates. And at the end, I'm going to be able to put a number like how many times was candidate 1 chosen? How many times was candidate 2 chosen? So the next column, you are choosing either candidate 1 or candidate 3. And then I'll just look for you to make sure that everybody has one. You're choosing either candidate 1 or candidate 3.
Wow, it's challenging.
It is.
Well, it is, because you have
Yeah.
like a favorite, but then you don't.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
You're kind of like, I mean,
This is much harder than
it's
it
challenging.
sounds.
It's more involved than it sounds.
Yes.
I don't
It's
think
really difficult if people haven't done their homework, right?
Right.
And so I'm
Yeah.
just
I know
grateful,
you're-
that's why you've had that,
You know what we're
and
doing.
been through that, and
Yeah.
it is an important exercise.
Down to 2.
Okay, does everyone have 2 circles on their page?
Yeah, I think most of us have.
Oh, I did all of one.
I did them all
Yeah.
row.
Okay.
I'm not,
Yep.
well, I'm not quite done with all of them yet, but I
Oh,
did.
no, okay.
Yeah.
So does anyone have questions for me about how they move forward?
Nope, let's keep going.
Okay, go to town. When you're finished, please bring your information up, and I'll enter it into the system.
Just first one done. What? It's a good tool. It is. Mhm. It's amazing.
You don't have a copyright or anything on this. be more work, I would consider doing it for each one of these categories.
Excuse me.
Because then you could, well, that would
Compare more.
expand the comparison. Because a person might be surprised in where they actually stand when you look at them compared to each other's system. or
Yes.
the main topics.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Pittman, very efficient.
Thank you so much. You'll be glad to know that everyone followed directions and the math worked perfectly. So we don't have to
Wonderful.
go over anybody's sheet.
Good.
Wonderful.
So what I will do is I will provide information about the ranking and how many points they had. There's the maximum number of points for each
you write these
of
down,
them
though?
is 36.
Okay.
No, excuse me. The total number of points altogether for each sheet is 36. So the highest person in this particular situation will have 38.
Oh,
And that is, according to this group, the number one ranked candidate is candidate 7.
oh,
So I'm going to let you put that together. Candidate 7 has 38 points.
Okay.
The second highest had 33 points, and that is candidate 3.
how many points? I'm sorry.
33.
33.
Thank you.
The third ranked candidate has one less point, so 32, and that is candidate 2. The fourth ranked candidate had 30, and that is candidate 6.
Good.
The next rank, so candidate 7, no, excuse me,
Wait.
6, right?
1, 2, 3.
You just ended on.
Yeah,
we
we
just do the
six.
first 5?
We have 4.
We have
You have 4,
four.
okay.
Yep, we have 4. So candidate 5.
So candidate, the candidate who came in fourth place essentially with the second highest, or the fourth highest amount of points was candidate number 6 with 30.
30.
Yep,
Yes.
got it
That's
ready.
the last one.
Correct,
we
we
have.
have that one.
So the
next
next
candidate.
one is candidate 9 with 25. The next candidate, candidate 6, or excuse me, with a ranking of 6, is, just want to make sure I'm seeing her, candidate 4 with 21 points.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm confused.
Candidate 4,
Or sorry, I mean the whole thing.
The whole thing,
Sorry.
yeah.
Well, should we wait till he's done?
Actually,
Okay.
could I propose we just start with how many points each candidate has? Start
Oh,
with
yeah.
1 and
Oh,
go down
yeah.
to
sure,
9?
sure,
That's probably.
Would that be a little easier?
Yeah, I
That might be
think so.
easier for me to track.
Yeah,
Me
that's-
too.
perfect.
Okay.
That's page turning.
Candidate 1 has 16,
Okay.
candidate 2 has 32, candidate 3 has 33, candidate 4 has 21, candidate 5 has 14, candidate 6 has 30, candidate 7 has 38, candidate 8 has 7, and candidate 9 has 25.
Wow.
So
Okay.
what I would recommend, does everyone have it?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So if you were to take those numbers, that means that candidate 7 is I'll just go down from, I'll go start down from the very first one, candidate 1, and just give
Yeah.
you the ranking so
Yep,
you
now-
can match them.
yep.
Candidate 1 is ranked 7, candidate 2 is ranked 3rd, candidate 3 is worth 2nd, candidate 4 is ranked 6th, candidate 5 is ranked 9th, candidate 6 is ranked 4, candidate 7 is ranked 1, candidate 8 is ranked 8, and candidate 9 is ranked 5.
Interesting.
So typically, at this stage of the game, I'll open it up for conversation in a second, but typically, as we said at the beginning, we really typically want to identify 4 to 6 if we believe they're somewhat close. So the first 4, I would recommend the board, based on the will of the board, I would say the first 4 we move forward to the semifinalist interviews. Then I would suggest that we look at the rankings for the folks with number 5, which is candidate 9, and candidate 4, which is ranked 6. So those were 25 points and 21 points, respectively.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So
I think the
um,
6.
let's start with the first 4 candidates before getting into any conversation. The data says that we should select those 4 for semifinalist interviews. Is there any conversation about that in terms of, do we support as a board moving those first 4 to the next round?
The top 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, top 4.
So candidate 7, candidate 3, candidate 2, and candidate 6.
What was the last one, I'm sorry?
6.
Correct.
So I have, and in order of candidate, I have candidate 2, 3, 6, and 7.
So moved?
Correct.
Okay, so,
Are we vote, I mean. do
no,
we-
we're not voting
Yeah.
yet. I think we're just,
Talking
we're
about-
deciding is there.
Correct.
Well, help me understand this, Dr. Bittler. We're deciding, is this appropriate, these 4? We definitely want to keep and move
One
forward.
with 6 and
Yes.
5
Yeah.
being close. That's
Yep.
what he's
So
asking.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Yep.
checking for understanding that I'm doing this, or I'm hearing the right thing. So I'm not hearing anyone on here that can't support moving the top 4 forward to the next round.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think that's
Yeah,
right.
I don't think we have any objection to
Okay,
that. Yeah.
so that would support the data. That's what every board member has said in terms of the ranking. The next question is, there is a gap in terms of numbers going from 30 points to 21 points. So we talked at the beginning about selecting 4 to 6.
Yep.
And so the conversation really that I'm looking for now is, are we satisfied with the 4? Or are we interested in talking about either 5 or 6? If we were to go to 5, the next person on there would be candidate 4. And if we went to candidate 6 for the process, that candidate would have,
No, just.
or excuse me,
number
candidate 9
Go
and
to
candidate 4.
9.
9 and 4.
Yeah, and there's quite a
Big gap.
quite a gap between candidate 9 and candidate 4 as well.
Yep, there's 4 points between those.
I
And
don't
there
know. I think
is
4
9
is-
points between candidate 4 and candidate 5.
I feel
Right.
that strong about
I
9.
would, I would like to, or I think we should keep it the top 4
I agree.
I
that
agree.
we've identified.
I'm satisfied with that. Their
I'm
points
very
are all
satisfied with those top
close
4.
within each other.
We all must pretty much agree a lot because the numbers are high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
You know,
numbers are
It's
high.
pretty,
They're kind of
pretty
similar.
evident that we kind of are on the same page with these 4.
Yeah, so that's good. They're all
Out
kind of
of-
similar.
No, I'd like to go with 5 at least. I was thinking then 6, but I think 5 would be good.
To bring in candidate number 9, so we have 5 candidates? Is that what?
Yeah, essentially
Yeah.
cutting the pool in half.
I can go.
But do you want to say why? Can you explain?
Well, I would have originally
is it-
wanted to go with the 6, so we have a bigger pool to have, have questions, because, when
Is
you,
it based on what you've read then about the candidates? I'm asking?
just based on a number. So based on
I don't care to be-
having more candidates to look at for when we have interviews.
I would, just my opinion, I would prefer to have 4 really strong candidates that are all close in numbers than 6 where the numbers kind of drop off. I mean, this is a very important job and we're all taking it very seriously, but we're all, this is taking up time as well. I'm not really interested necessarily in adding some folks to be interviewed knowing that there's 4 that are very strong. I guess I don't need more candidates, which would take, more time and more, if there's kind of a trail off here, that would be my opinion.
In my opinion, to Member Castle's point, is that the 4 are all very similar in numbers, so that's going to be a tough decision, right?
I
They're all
agree.
very close. So I don't in my mind, I just don't need to go into more candidates to, not so much add more work, but just to tip the balance. I just think they're all strong in the numbers. The 4.
But I think we all are really agreement, and that's impressive, that we
So
all
it's gonna
kind
be a
of,
hard
we're on the
decision.
same page with the strength of these 4 candidates,
Yeah,
too.
there's very strong
I mean,
alignment
that's-
with the top 4.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the
And I
way-
could go either way on it. When I look at the community feedback, I honestly think we'd be remiss if we didn't include candidate 9, based on what the community is asking for and the experience that that individual will bring to the table. And I don't know that it's that much extra work to do an extra interview. And I
With their
really hate
back-
to sell ourselves short on,
So
I
something
don't
about
get the
the
rationale of
Yeah.
selling ourselves short, though. Could you explain that a little farther?
I just don't want to limit the pool too early.
Okay, so what
So,
about
Mr. Chair, if I
nine?
could,
Please.
that, we did hear, to your point, we did hear the importance of 2 things that came forward. One being somebody who has some level experience.
Yeah.
And this person has as much, if not more, experience than the other, so that might be a reason the board would consider
Yeah.
doing that. The second piece that people were interested really was a commitment to the community and really wanting to be invested and wanting to be here. They did share that. So that too, if the board were to decide to go to 5, those would be the 2 reasons primarily that align with that.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Could I say something to?
Sure.
To that? In other discussions about the candidates, I mean, we are not able to ask the person to move to this community.
Correct.
And so I think that someone can say on the paper that they would like to move to the community and they're willing to move to the community, but we can't require that, and I read that the person is interested, or, you know, whatever word they use. So I don't know if it's a level playing field to say we should, and I'm not saying we shouldn't choose this person,
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't think a reason is that person is willing to move here, because we can't require that. And maybe some other folks are willing to move here too, they just didn't put it in their application material. So for me, that's not a reason for
I would-
this person.
I would agree with Director Christensen
Yeah.
in that regard. The person's making no commitments, there's
No,
nothing
no.
that forces them to do that. The difference being when we talk to candidates about the criteria and the importance the community places on having a community
huge.
presence,
Yeah.
this is someone who did that even before we even talked to them about it. Where some of the others may be looking for a job or looking for a superintendency and have experience, this is a person who just called that out. So I'm not pushing for a 5th candidate. If there was a 5th candidate from the board, those would be the reasons you might consider having a 5th candidate.
And,
The top 4 are very solid.
and to that same point, we can't require them to stay in the district too if they just happen to be here already. We can't mandate that earlier, or either.
Well, there's the same spread between the top candidate and the next one of the 4, and the bottom of the 4 to the 5th one. It's a difference of 5 in both cases.
Yeah.
There would,
Perhaps because this particular candidate does have, I believe if I'm remembering right, because it's a lot of information, the longest history of actual superintendencies, being a superintendent. And so this candidate particularly would have all the experiences, multiple cycles of finance and negotiations, and I mean, all the things that go with it, and has done coming into new communities, I believe. I don't think he was from, you know what I'm saying? Like, he went into new communities.
I would add just what I would say to all boards who are going through this. If there's any interest in that particular candidate, there's no harm in bringing them forward to another interview.
Right.
Because ultimately, you're going to have
Yeah.
to narrow that down to 2 or 3.
Right.
So if there's any interest among the board, you can't go wrong with spending an hour with the candidate. Again, your top 4 are very united. And so it could go either way. But again, we wouldn't want our firm we wouldn't want there to be a time where people go, ooh, I really wish we would have done this particular. It's always easier to include them than it is to not include them.
And I just,
But again, it's up to you.
it is, and I just want to add one thing that stuck with me with this applicant is that some of the experiences listed are in different states.
Correct.
So
Yep.
I feel like there's some movement there, and we're used to kind of our home area, kind of homegrown superintendents in that area. So that it was another thing that just gave me a little bit of pause there. So, but yes, 12 years of experience is a lot, but it's across different states.
Yeah.
Is that,
I do think it's important to add, though, as Dr. Bittman mentioned, we are not picking our superintendent today.
Right.
We are just
looking
picking
at pool.
who we would like to talk to.
And I do think that every step that you do, again, I'm not trying to persuade, I just want to make sure that if there's any interest that you as a board have an opportunity to talk about that. But I would say, at that particular level, it's one more step where you're going to see someone and interact with someone that might tell you something different than the video or than the application and then so again, every interaction you have with any of these, by the time you're at the very end and picking your candidate, you will have, you've really given yourself every opportunity to try to get to know who these people are personally and professionally.
Would it be correct in saying,
That
too,
makes
that an
sense.
additional interaction might help us maybe spread another individual away from the pack? Just have more experience, more discussions?
For sure.
Would really help us with deciding.
Yeah. And I would say the same for the videos, right? There were probably some of you who looked at the applications and were really excited or not excited, and then you went through the references, and some of them were like, ooh, I'm a little more interested in that person, I'm a little less interested in this person. And then you see them live on a video answering questions that they have no idea what they're going to be asked. And it's like, oh, I kind of like their demeanor, I like how they showed up, I want to know more about that candidate. This would just be one more opportunity to say, okay, now I didn't have to see them on a screen.
Right.
Now they're sitting next to me or with me, and I don't care for them. I don't care for their style, or I really want to know more about them. Now I'm really excited about their style. So you can't go wrong with either way, but it does allow, whatever you decide, the candidates that you see, you're going to immediately have a reaction, even though up to now you may be saying, ooh, I really like these two candidates. Those two candidates likely may or may not be the
Right.
ones that you want to move forward to finalists after
Right.
that experience. So.
well, I'd be for adding another one. I mean, this candidate, did we do that already? or
Which
is it
number?
debate number?
No, we have not,
Candidate.
we haven't really decided which.
Oh, that, to go with
Yeah,
the
we
top
were talking
five.
about
Yeah.
the last one.
Yeah, to add that candidate into the
For
pool.
clarity, am I hearing that we're not interested at this point in bringing forward the 6th ranked candidate?
Yeah,
That's what my original thought would, but 5 is compromise.
Okay.
yeah.
And if I'm correct, you're talking about 9. You've been talking about 9.
Yeah,
Yes.
including candidate 9 as well.
Okay.
With,
Yeah.
in fifth. Yes.
Does that seem palatable to the group? To include 9?
It can't hurt.
Yeah, I think based on what Dr. Bittman said, that, just maybe that other connection will solidify it some more.
Or maybe it'll, yeah.
Yeah, one way or the other.
One way
Yep.
or the
Right.
other, correct, correct.
Yeah.
I think it's that person is a strong candidate, and yeah, I think it's better to,
Yeah, let's have the additional discussion.
Let's just do
We're,
it.
So
yeah,
what I
we're
think
committed to hiring a superintendent, we'll do the work.
So what I think I'm hearing the board say, Mr. Chair, is that we would bring 5 candidates forward.
Yes.
The first 4 unanimous agreement. The 5th candidate would be brought forward as well, and that would be candidate 9.
Okay, and I want to make sure I have this clear before I make the motion here. We are discussing, and please look at your sheets, we're discussing moving forward candidate 2, candidate 3, candidate 6, candidate 7, and candidate 9.
Yep.
Did I get that, did I capture that?
Yep, 2,
Yes.
3.
Okay, seeing no disagreement on that, I will make a motion to move that the school board approve candidates 2, 3, 6, 7, and 9 to advance as semifinalists for first-round superintendent interviews to be held on April 8th and 9th, 2026, and authorize our consultant, Dr. Bittman, to notify selected candidates and coordinate interview logistics. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Member Christensen?
I'm just wondering, maybe a process question, but so, if the two folks or whoever go first on the 8th, I mean, are they expected the same things on the 9th? Like, is it sort of unfair, like if you get to go first, then you could, it's all public, so you could be at home like watching?
Yeah,
Or
it's
how
a-
does that work? Is it the
Oh.
same?
I can address that. We covered this via resolution a couple of weeks ago, where we decided that we were not going to stream the candidate interviews. So what we've asked administration to do is to record the interview on the 8th, and then to record the interview on the 9th, and then release those recorded interviews to the public.
Oh, I
So
see.
those will be.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
Yep, that's a very important clarification that, and we'll leave it up to Dr. Bittman and his team to figure out the logistics around the interviews, so we will have no control over who interviews first,
That's
second,
next
third.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Yes.
Just that it's Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
And
So typically what we would do is we'd interview 3 candidates on the first night, 2 candidates on the second night, and that will then provide time for the board to go through a series to say, who are the 2 or 3 that we want to move forward to the next round? Similar to what we've done right now, it'll happen quicker because there's only 5 candidates. But then we'll have this same conversation. Typically, in most situations, there's a clear, like there was tonight, there's a few of those that are just going to really stand out, and those are the ones we would then bring forward based on approval from the full board for the finalist round.
So you said 3 on Tuesday and 2 on, thank you.
No, Wednesday.
It's Wednesday and
Wednesday,
Thursday.
Wednesday and
Yep.
Thursday.
Yes.
Yep.
The 8th and the
Oh.
9th.
The 8th and the 9th.
Yeah, I
correct.
had that.
The communication or the feedback I got from the board earlier would be a 5:30 start, so the first
Yeah.
night might be a little longer, about an hour, 15 minutes or so, if you include a little break in between each interview. And then we won't debrief about those candidates that first night, because we want you to see all 5 candidates. And then after the 5 candidates, we'll have the information there.
okay.
All right, is the, any other discussion on the motion or
Do you-
logistics?
Oh, no.
Yeah, Member Atkinson?
I just have a question for Dr. Bittman. Do you tell them, do you just say they've been selected as a finalist, or do you?
Yes, we don't give any
Okay.
information about rankings or
Okay,
anything like
because-
that. They don't know,
because it
because you
switches so
refer
much
to them
to-
as a number.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
saying the board has decided on 5 candidates. You're one of those 5 candidates. Congratulations. We talk through about next steps, and then we schedule the times specifically for the candidates, and then we go from there.
And when do we get the questions, or how do the questions work?
Yep, so I submitted questions to both Julie and Kurt together,
Oh.
and based on the criteria and things. So typically what would happen is the 2 of them would then provide feedback, edit, et cetera, and then after that, I would bring those to the board that night. And we would have, we'd come a few minutes early. I'd just explain the legalities of questions and things like that very quickly. And then typically what boards do is they just take a number and they rotate. So you might, Jill, say the first question, and you might say the second, and you might say the third, and the fourth, just kind of rotate, so you get a chance to interact with that candidate a little bit.
And you have to ask a specific question, you cannot ask follow-ups, it's all, you have to treat each candidate exactly the same.
Correct. The difference being is you can ask a clarifying question. So you can say, did I hear you say this? Like, this is what I think I heard you say, is that accurate? But you can't say, well, that makes me think of another question.
Okay. Yeah.
And also say that again, we're not live streaming it, but people can be here.
They can't.
So
Correct.
what if,
So
the
from
best
us,
friend of someone who's
Yeah. It can work
interviewing on the
system.
second night,
Yeah.
I think it's an advantage, and again, scheduling, it is what it is, but
Yeah.
I feel like it would be to your advantage to interview the first evening. But there's nothing we can do about that.
yeah, from a search firm, our recommendation would always be, don't live stream them, but legally it has to be an
Right, it's
open
open.
meeting.
Correct.
So they could do that.
I'm not, to be clear, I'm not saying any of our candidates would do that. I'm just
Right.
talking out loud, like I just think to go to second night, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they'd do that. I mean,
Agree.
But-
Yeah, and in all of my time with searches, we haven't had candidates do that. And so,
I don't,
what's that?
I don't think they would want to get caught doing
No,
that.
Yeah, I don't
to
either.
be, that was a bad example. To be clear, I was talking out loud. To be clear, I'm not suggesting any candidate would do that. I'm just thinking in my head, Member Chair said it's not live streamed, like that would solve like in my
No.
head, that would solve the problem. And then I was thinking, well, actually it doesn't, because people could be here and no, certainly none of these candidates, no one would do that. I was just more thinking out loud.
Just
I
process
wasn't
it.
try- I
It's a
wasn't
good,
trying
good
to-
thought.
It's getting late.
Okay, so what about questions that we want to ask?
You can't.
You don't.
Yeah, we can't. And,
don't.
and
There seems something wrong with that.
as Dr. Bittman stated, he did send
Sure, the
myself.
same question, but why can't I ask the same question to all 5?
Be-
Dr. Bittman did provide myself and Member Corcoran the questions. Yeah, I was going to say, I suspect Member Corcoran, like me, has been focused on this evening.
Mr. Chair, I can provide a little background.
Yeah, we
for
all
that if
have.
you want.
Yes,
Highlighting like
please
crazy.
do,
So-
because I want to make sure that everybody on the board has an opportunity to
Yeah, so
provide feedback. to
the
that, too.
questions that I suggested for consideration to both of you as chair and vice chair were directly related to the feedback and the criteria.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to that, I did provide you with a bank of other questions that could be considered. So when the two of you have an opportunity to really weigh in on that, you could say, we don't like any of these questions. We want to talk to the board and we want them to come up with a question. You want to do that.
Yeah.
That hasn't been done before, but it's certainly, again, from a strategic standpoint, if there are things that you want to talk with the board members about, you can certainly do that. But our firm always wants to give you questions that are specific to these to start with, because it's typically easier for you to look at the language.
board input though, because everybody has their own.
Well,
But I
Two-
think too, when you use the information that's been gathered
Yeah.
over the course of the time,
That's true.
that's what's important to our community. And those are
Yep.
the questions and answers they want to hear most likely. So just going off on our own might not serve as good of a purpose
And-
to our community.
Those questions, I think, are going to help us make a decision, because like Dr. Bittman mentioned, they're based on the feedback, so.
Right.
I think myself and Member Corcoran, we talk a lot these days, so we'll connect again tomorrow, and then
Good.
we'll connect with all the board members just to make sure that you guys are comfortable before we move forward next week. I don't want anybody to feel like they did not have input, and I know Member Corcoran shares the same opinion.
Oh, I do, yes.
Yeah.
So then we will get the questions before Wednesday.
Yes, yeah. Myself and Member Corcoran, I'll share what the proposals
Okay.
are, and I'll share what our discussion vetted out.
How
and
many questions
how we
will
feel.
we be asked? Is there-
I'd have to look back. Typically, it's,
10?
yeah, usually it's around 10. One caution for the board is that you are not allowed to conduct business outside a public meeting.
Correct.
So you just want to be really thoughtful, even talking about the particular questions.
Yeah.
You could send me the feedback, and I could make adjustments.
Correct.
But you
Right.
wouldn't want to be able to say, oh, each of us worked with the board
Right.
chair, and here, now we have these
Yeah,
final
right.
questions. So just want to be thoughtful.
That's why I suggested myself and Member Corcoran will work
Good
together.
reminder.
We'll put a proposal to the board, and we'll have them send your feedback directly. Yeah, yeah. We're very familiar with
Okay.
the open meeting law and how to prevent
I'm sure
having
that's the case, but I will sleep
yeah,
better
a
tonight
serial
having
meeting.
said it.
Yes, thank you. I do appreciate the reminder.
Okay, so-
Okay, we do have a motion on the table to approve candidates 2, 3, 6, 7, and 9.
And this has
Second?
been seconded, yeah?
And that's been seconded. Do
Yeah.
we have any additional discussion on that? Okay, in that case, I'd ask Member Clerk to please take the roll call on that.
It's buried in this other manila folder. Okay. All right. So, start with Member Christensen.
Aye.
Member Rebeline?
Aye.
Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Corcoran?
Aye.
Member Castle?
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye. The ayes have it.
Okay, the motion carries. Now, before we get too excited to leave, we got a couple of things we have to clarify. So for that, the following candidates have been selected. These are their names. I'm going to go in a random order and just,
Oh,
just for clarity.
Oh.
Mr. Jim Wagner, Mrs. Rebecca Brodeur, Mr. John Paul Jacobson, Mr. Timothy Schoshemeyer, and Mr. Joshua Anderson. The next steps is the selected candidates will be notified and scheduled for interviews. Interview procedures that we just discussed and confidential expectations will be reviewed prior to the interviews. Interview information will be posted on the website in the next 24 hours, and members of the public are invited and encouraged to attend. Mr. Bittman already stated that he will share with us a press release that our communications department can work on over the next few days. With that, we'll review upcoming calendar dates. As we discussed, April 8th and 9th are candidate interviews. April 16th is our next board meeting. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that today is Holy Thursday, tomorrow's Good Friday, Easter Sunday is obviously Sunday. And during the Easter season, I, for one, will be praying for unity for the board to be successful in the superintendent search, and I would join all of you in doing that with me. And with that, I would move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned.